So what are we about to do differently?
There's nothing we could do differently, man.
So then
We gonna talk to them. We gonna
We
just
have
talk to the chat.
Figure something out, chat, and figure out why YouTube's like this. Should we go to Rumble? Should we get on X? Are y'all gonna follow us on X? I think we do have an account on X. I think we do, but I don't think it would
We
work.
might as well hit the Rumble. Or Twitch.
I say.
YouTube style.
Why the chat? Why we can't see this? Oh, we never can see the chat right now. Yeah, we could. Yeah, we're back, bro. We don't get it. But it's people. It's only one guy that survived, man, in the Hunger Games. He won, man.
He knows someone up there, man.
Maybe because I don't know what he did, bro. Meet Kevin, man. He does like crypto and all that. I remember this guy.
They saying Rumble, man. Y'all got Rumble?
Sucks,
Comment if y'all got that Rumble.
I don't know about Rumble, bro.
We'll probably take a second to get going. But we will.
Just sad case.
It is. We're sorry, y'all.
Sad case. Starting tomorrow. Oh, dang, Rumble. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Rumble, bro.
why?
I don't know. It just seems so, I don't know, weird. Have y'all got on Rumble and watched content on Rumble?
I've watched content on Rumble. Nah, I'm lying. No, I haven't.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, bro.
I've never been on Rumble, but
I mean,
we can get on there.
Hey.
Whatever the people want, we gonna give it to them.
Hey, guys, let us know. Comment Rumble,
They commented.
or let's just get back out.
Patreon.
You don't have that.
We can make one.
What are people gonna say?
They're gonna say you guys fucking
Censor.
Hey guys, why don't you just create an overlay over the video next time so that you get a strike? I've seen some streams do it.
Yeah, so the overlay would just basically like censor it, and they could just listen.
Hey, why don't you create an
I think it would still be entertaining if they couldn't see it.
I don't know, man. Would y'all want to see it with him not on it? Like, this how we'll probably look at though, guys. Oh, the toes. Look at the toes.
Oh,
Look at the toes.
oh.
We'll put some socks
Show
on
me
you,
your
monkey.
feet.
I got hot,
Show me
bro.
your crazy toenails.
But I haven't clipped them, y'all.
Put something on there, monkey.
Oh damn!
I can sit.
Monkey is
I'm gonna
crazy.
sit like this, y'all. I'm in my natural habitat.
Whoa, buddy.
He's going crazy there. You had to do all that.
Change the title. I can name it Watching You Know What.
You think that would fix it
Put
though?
watching Rocky's op. Watching Rocky's
Just say the Cold War interview.
the Cold War summed
Soviet
up.
Union.
World War III question mark?
But they
What
just,
Tucker's talking about.
but the
right
video
now.
just when he was talking, he was explaining how the Soviet Union became Soviet Union became one.
Okay, guys.
It's
the
crazy.
audio only might actually work.
No, I think they hit us up for that too.
I think that's how they probably detecting us.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Let me get socks, y'all.
This is insane, y'all. I never seen nothing like this. Y'all, I'm texting Elon right now to see he gonna mess with us.
You just text him?
I added him. I just told him we got censored on YouTube. We might be over it though.
Damn, that shit's about an hour and 27.
See, my nigga even tapped into this
it's
bit. Pure
2
niggas.
hours. It's 2 hours.
Pure niggas tapping into this bit.
To the interview.
That's a crazy description of your fan.
I'm messed up, y'all.
No, don't try to censor it now.
I'm so messed up, yo.
All right, guys. So we have two options here. Because I don't want to go to another app. I really do like YouTube. I say we either just do strictly audio.
I think they're gonna hit us with that too, bro.
We changed the title, bro.
I think we gotta go on X, y'all. Y'all wanna watch it with us? We might have
Bro,
to.
we can't.
Bro, Elon Musk is not about to censor us. He damn quoted it, said, I'm watching it now.
I'm just boosting, man. Just let me boost.
You just asked the guy who's for free speech. Did you guys see that they said that Joe Biden's mentally incompetent?
That's crazy.
It says they said, this is from the grand jury. It says, we have also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury as he did during an interview of him as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Based on our direct interactions with and observations of him, he is someone for whom many jurors will identify reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, by then a former president into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Basically saying that he's mentally incompetent.
That's
Get
insane.
that fucking zombie out of the White House.
He is.
Man, this interview is going crazy. Everybody's watching it, bro.
No, bro.
Bro, Twitter is going insane about this,
Bro,
right
we
now.
just need to live stream it on X. Everybody,
Should
We're
we
on
go?
what profile? One of y'all's.
we can live stream it from my X.
We can.
I'm fine with that. Let's do it. Let's go. Just don't open my DMs. On stream.
Hey,
Open his
so-
DMs.
Hey
And
guys,
his likes.
all right, Brock. So we either can change the
likes not
title,
bad.
change
Those
the
are public.
audio, or go to Brandon's Twitter.
Really, was right to change the audio. Or change they can't see it, just do the audio.
I think it would be the same thing, in my opinion. We could try though.
Yeah, because we're just getting limited. If we give, we're not getting strike, guys. So that's the problem. Look, hey, look, they just took the limit off.
So, are we good?
I don't know. I don't know.
Y'all, this is weird.
Let's
bro.
go.
This is so weird, guys. I never seen nothing like this in my lifetime, man.
I don't think the channel will be affected, guys.
This is real life
But, hey,
censorship.
I don't know.
I thought we live in America. I thought we have First Amendment, freedom of speech. Thought we had our First Amendment,
I thought we had damn rocks in this country.
the freedom of speech.
My bad, guys. My bad. Okay. So,
That's insane.
I thought
bro.
we had rocks in this.
we'll get this thing back jumping, boys, because I ain't scared of nothing.
They mean
But
they
I
have
am
their
scared.
America probably having the red scare again because Putin talking,
They
bro.
gonna say we warned y'all once with the and then that
The
next
guy
time.
kept going, boys. We like y'all. You two gonna say we like y'all, boys, but y'all gotta go.
Oh no. Oh no.
Okay, guys.
It's crazy. We really had some Russians in the chat, bro. I never would have thought I'd have seen that, bro.
I know we did.
That was insane. Shout out to everybody in this world.
Okay, guys.
This beautiful, beautiful world.
I'm not scared, man. But before we do get this started, though,
Let's start it all over again.
Nah. It's going to end at the same part.
just the audio. Okay, let's try. We gotta do something different. Y'all all right though? We do have to do something different. I'm not gonna do. We can't just do the same thing. That'll be idiotic.
Shout out to Stanley for this ice cold water.
Brock, you got socks
Been
on,
down
buddy?
Yeah.
12 hours.
Still got socks, y'all. Woo.
African toes. All right.
Them African booty scratcher toes.
That's why I went fast, y'all.
All right.
You got them tingers?
Let us know if
they
y'all
grip the
hate
track.
this in the audio, guys. If we get took it down, y'all know why.
We're going to pick up where we
The
left
founder of the
off.
Soviet state
И вот это все
established a new
когда Россия их получила в результате.
At some point, when Russia received them as an outcome of the Russo-Turkish wars,
Белоруссии.
they were
know
called
what?
New Russia.
Y'all right. Let's change the title. Watson, you know what?
Just leave it on, bro. If you're
All
not
right.
gonna show it,
All right.
don't be scared now.
or Novorossiya.
Ленин основатель.
But that does not matter. What matters is that Lenin, the founder of the Soviet state,
И вот это все
established Ukraine that way.
десятилетия в составе СССР.
For decades, the Ukrainian Soviet Republic developed as part of the USSR.
По непонятным
One more pause, guys. We're not gonna get a strike. I do not think we're gonna get a strike, guys. It's not worthy of a strike, like at all. Like maybe they'll say we use reuse content. That'll be the only way they can get us going. But a strike is insane. This is not going against YouTube policies. They can just take it down because they think it's like harmful speech, and they'll probably limit the video, and that would be the reason that we're not on here. But let's try this way. If we're gone, then you know why, guys. But we'll probably come back and try to.
Can we scroll down so we can see how many
Ain't
people
nobody
in
else.
the live?
Huh?
Can we scroll down over there to see how many people in live?
Oh, okay.
Only 500, dang.
They were called
It's all right.
New Russia or Novorossiya.
Ленин основатель.
But that does not matter. What matters is that Lenin, the founder of the Soviet state,
И вот это все
established Ukraine that way.
десятилетия в составе СССР.
For decades, the Ukrainian
It's just
Soviet
audio,
Republic
y'all. You know you
developed
can't
as
see
part
this
of the USSR.
По непонятным причинам занимались.
And for unknown reasons, again, the Bolsheviks were engaged in Ukrainianization. It was not merely because the Soviet leadership was composed to a great extent of those originating from
Казалось,
Ukraine.
Украина и других.
Rather, it was explained by the general policy of indigenization pursued by the Soviet Union. Same things were done in other Soviet republics. This involved promoting national languages and national cultures, which is not bad in principle. That is how the Soviet Ukraine was created. After the World War II, Ukraine received, in addition to the lands that had belonged to Poland before the war, part of the lands that had previously belonged to Hungary and Romania. So Romania and Hungary had some of their lands taken away and given to the Soviet Ukraine, and they still remain part of Ukraine. So in this sense, we have every reason to affirm that Ukraine is an artificial state that was shaped at Stalin's will.
Do you believe Hungary has a right to take its land back from Ukraine, and that other nations have a right to go back to their 1654 borders?
Ну, я не знаю, как границам.
I'm not sure whether they should go back to the 1654 borders.
Все считают, что.
But given Stalin's time, so-called Stalin's regime, which as many claim saw numerous violations of human rights and violations of the rights of other states,
То в этом смысле, конечно, вполне можно, ну, если не говорить о том, что они имеют на это право.
one may say that they could claim back those lands of theirs while having no right to do that. It is at least understandable.
Have you told Viktor Orban that he can have part of Ukraine?
Никогда не говорил.
Never. I have never told him, not a single time.
У нас с ним даже на этот счет не было никаких разговоров. Но мне достоверно.
We have not even had any conversation on that, but I actually know for sure that Hungarians who live there
Они, конечно, хотят вернуться на свою историю.
wanted to get back to their historical land.
Интересную историю. Отвлекусь.
Moreover, I would like to share a very interesting story with you.
Значит, где-то в начале
I digress, it's a personal one.
из,
Somewhere in the early 80s, I went on a road trip in a car from then Leningrad across the Soviet Union through Kiev.
въехал.
Made a stop in Kiev and then went to
I'm sorry, bro. Somebody said, "Can Putin get the N-word pass?"
I seen that. I let it ride.
Insane.
The Jesus.
Okay, do y'all think it would be crazy if we did it like this, though, bro? I know this kind of sucks for the people. I would.
Just pull a picture.
No, look. Let's see. Damn, here it goes. Like this. Watch this. Y'all think those together?
I feel like that's so small.
It'll be better than nothing.
Yeah, at least they'll be able to see what's going on.
I hate that they can't see it, man.
I feel you though. I feel you.
Let's see, guys. Let's see.
Western Ukraine.
Название
I went to the town of Beregovoye, and all the names of towns and villages there were in Russian and in the language I did not understand, in Hungarian, in Russian and in Hungarian,
возле
not in Ukrainian, in Russian and in Hungarian. I was driving through some kind of village, and there were men sitting next to the houses, and they were wearing black three-piece suits and black cylinder hats. I asked, are they some kind of...
Why do we look like that now? What the heck?
Like what?
Oh, I'm tripping. Oh, okay. I'm an idiot. Oh, my bad, stream. Oh, y'all know. Oh,
entertainers. I was
I'm
told,
sorry.
no, they were not entertainers, they're Hungarians. I said, what are they doing here? What do you mean? This is their land, they live here. This was during the Soviet time in the 1980s. They preserved the Hungarian language, Hungarian names, and all their national costumes. They are Hungarians and they feel themselves to be Hungarians. And of course, when now there is an infringement.
Well, that is, and there's a lot of that, though. I think many nations are upset about Transylvania as well, as you obviously know. But many nations feel frustrated by the
Transylvania's a real
redrawn
place?
borders of the wars of the 20th century and wars going back 1,000 years.
That is
the
crazy.
ones that you mentioned. But the fact is that you didn't make this case in public until 2 years ago, February. And in the case that you made, which I read today, you explain at great length that you felt a physical threat from the West in NATO, including potentially a nuclear threat, and that's what got you to move. Is that a fair characterization of what you said?
Я понимаю, что мои длинные диалоги, они...
I understand that my long speeches probably fall outside of the genre of the interview. That is why I asked you at the beginning, are we going to have a serious talk or a show? You said a serious talk, so bear with me, please. We're coming to the point where the Soviet Ukraine was established. Then, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, and everything that Russia had generously bestowed on Ukraine was dragged away by the latter. I'm coming to a very important point of today's agenda.
Thank you.
After all, the collapse of the Soviet Union was effectively initiated by the Russian leadership. I do not understand what the Russian leadership was guided by at the time, but I suspect there were several reasons to think everything would be fine. First, I think that then Russian leadership believed that the fundamentals of the relationship between Russia and Ukraine were, in fact, a common language. More than 90% of the population there spoke Russian. Family ties. Every third person there had some kind of family or friendship ties. Common culture, common history. Finally, common faith, coexistence with a single state for centuries, and deeply interconnected economies. All of these were so fundamental. All these elements together make our good relationships inevitable. The second point is a very important one. I want you, as an American citizen, and your viewers to hear about this as well. The former Russian leadership assumed that the Soviet Union had ceased to exist, and therefore there were no longer any ideological dividing lines. Russia even agreed voluntarily and proactively to the collapse of the Soviet Union, and believed that this would be understood by the so-called civilized West as an invitation for cooperation and association. That is what Russia was expecting, both from the United States and the so-called collective West as a whole.
Okay.
There were smart people, including in Germany, Egon Bahr, a major politician of the Social Democratic Party, who insisted in his personal conversations with the Soviet leadership on the brink of the collapse of the Soviet Union that a new security system should be established in Europe. Help should be given to unify Germany, but a new system
So they was trying to rebuild their state and have like relationships with the United States. What I'm off of everything that's going on with law led to this. I think they were trying to build their state. They probably didn't have a relationship deal they wanted, and they just pretty much went to Ukraine. got back what was theirs. Pretty much, they felt like it was theirs.
This reminds me of the movie Oppenheimer, bro. There's a guy from I forgot his name. Was it Oppenheimer? That was his name. He was from Germany and he came to the United States, and that's why he made that bomb that blew Japan up. So I can see, you know,
Oppenheimer.
yeah, Oppenheimer. I can see a lot of correlation, and this is insane.
So like,
It
it
is
just
crazy.
seemed like a lot of it, like everything is behind money, man. It's so
A major
deep.
politician of the Social Democratic Party, who insisted in his personal conversations with the Soviet leadership on the brink of the collapse of the Soviet Union that a new security system should be established in Europe.
Помочь объединиться Германии, но
Help should be given to unify Germany, but a new system should be also established to include the United States, Canada, Russia, and other Central European countries.
Yes.
But NATO needs not to expand. That's what he said. If NATO expands, everything would be just the same as during the Cold War, only closer to Russia's borders. That's all.
Больше того, он рассердился как-то.
He was a wise old man, but no one listened to him. In fact, he got angry once.
Рассердился на советское руководство.
If, he said, you don't listen to me, I'm never setting my foot in Moscow once again.
Но, тем не менее,
Everything happened just as he had said.
Well, of course, it did come true, and you've mentioned this many times. I think it's a fair point, and many in America thought that relations between Russia and the United States would be fine with the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, that the opposite happened. But you've never explained why you think that happened, except to say that the West fears a strong Russia, but we have a strong China the West does not seem very afraid of. What about Russia, do you think, convinced policymakers they had to take it down?
Запад боится сильного Китая больше, чем сильной России.
The West is afraid of strong China more than it fears a strong Russia, because Russia has 150 million people and China has 1.5 billion population, and its economy is growing by leaps and bounds, or 5% a year. It used to be even more. But that's enough for China. As Bismarck once put it, potentials are the most important. China's potential is enormous. It is the biggest economy in the world today in terms of purchasing power parity and the size of the economy. It has already overtaken the United States quite a long time ago, and it is growing at a rapid clip. Let's not talk about who is afraid of whom. Let's not reason in such terms. And let's get into the fact that after 1991, when Russia expected that it would be welcomed into the brotherly family of civilized nations, nothing like this happened. You tricked us. I don't mean you personally when I say you. Of course, I'm talking about the United States. The promise was that NATO would not expand eastward, but it happened 5 times. There were 5 waves of expansion. We tolerated all that. We were trying to persuade them.
We might be closer to a war than we expect. If you think about this, Biden said, we're going to see what we haven't seen in a long time. Russian troops fighting United States troops.
When did he say that?
Brother, you don't remember when he said that? Do you remember when he said that? He said that. Brandon, do you remember when he said that?
Said what?
He
When
said on
Biden
TV.
said, we're closer to seeing Russian troops fighting United States troops.
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah, because he said he's gonna put his
So-
freaking soldiers on the ground in Ukraine.
So
We don't need to go for. I'm telling y'all right now, we do not need to send no American soldiers to die for no other country's
And
safety.
this is why they're
That
censoring
should
this
never
right
happen
now.
ever.
Because American people aren't going to agree with this.
Nah, they not.
Wow.
well,
They're not
so
going to agree with innocent United States men going out there fighting a war and dying, man.
I just don't think it's a good look for them to send.
well, I'm gonna keep it 100.
So how did the United
America
States and
gonna be
Russia
a-
get, or how did the United States and Ukraine get so close again?
NATO. They trying to probably put it on NATO. That's the problem right now.
I
That's
guess I don't know. I don't know if we're just trying to be close to our. I ain't gonna say our enemies because we over there in Japan.
But it sounded like he was mad. I guess Russia was upset because the U.S. and NATO continued.
they
to
stabbed
push.
them in the back basically.
Well, no, they just continued. They said they weren't going to push democracy, but they did.
It might have been democracy, but yeah, they said they weren't gonna push eastward and get those those countries into the NATO, and then they end up getting them into the NATO.
This look bitty. This
I can see, the uproar about that, but I don't know, man.
I didn't know
I
the
just don't feel
Soviet.
like we should be getting handling these little countries, and then we're getting into it with the big dogs,
Did y'all know the Soviet
that's-
We
Union?
still the big dogs.
We still are, but we still, it's other big dogs.
Joe Biden is gonna fuck us.
Y'all didn't know we
You guys
collapsed
see
in
they just came out
1991?
and said he's freaking mentally incompetent.
That's insane.
That's insane. Yeah, that is crazy.
To be honest with
He's
you,
done. Oh, Trump's
after what
president.
he's saying, I can understand. You know what I'm saying? As a nation,
Why Russia feels the way they feel about
yeah,
us?
I can't say what he's doing is right, but I can understand. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah. But I don't know exactly. So we did see yesterday that they're pushing people out of their homes in Ukraine. Are they doing that? What are
No.
they doing in Ukraine? Like,
They said that they was invading, like trying to take it over. They touched down on the ground.
yeah.
Said we coming to take this shit.
Yep. I have seen that.
orderly family of civilized nations, nothing like this happened. You tricked us. I don't mean you personally when I say you. Of course, I'm talking about the United States. The promise was that NATO would not expand eastward, but it happened 5 times. There were 5 waves of expansion. We tolerated all that. We were trying to persuade them. We were saying, please don't. We are as bourgeois now as you are. We are market economy and there is no communist party power. Let's negotiate. Moreover, I have also said this publicly before.
Был момент, когда
There was a moment when
когда серая кошка пробежала.
a certain rift started growing between us.
Помните, уступал?
Before that, Yeltsin came to the United States. Remember, he spoke in Congress and said the good words. God bless America. Everything he said were signals. Let us in. Remember the developments in Yugoslavia before the Yeltsin was lavished with praise? As soon as the developments in Yugoslavia started, he raised his voice in support of Serbs, and we couldn't but raise our voices for Serbs in their defense. I
That's
understand
crazy.
that there were complex processes underway there. I do. But Russia could not help raising its voice in support of Serbs, because Serbs are also a special and close to us nation, with Orthodox culture and so on. It's a nation that has suffered so much for generations. Well, regardless, what is important is that Yeltsin expressed his support. What did the United States do? In violation of international law and the UN Charter, it started bombing Belgrade. It was the United States that let the genie out of the bottle. Moreover, when Russia protested and expressed its resentment, what was said? The UN Charter and international law have become obsolete. Now everyone invokes international law, but at that time they started saying that everything was outdated. Everything had to be changed. Indeed, some things need to be changed, as the balance of power has changed. It's true, but not in this manner. Yeltsin was immediately dragged through the mud, accused of alcoholism, of understanding nothing, of
That's
knowing
crazy.
nothing.
Ну хорошо.
He understood everything, I assure you. Well,
Думаю, ладно, все.
I became president in 2000. I thought, okay, the Yugoslav issue is over, but we should try to restore relations.
Которую Россия.
Let's reopen the door that Russia had tried to go through.
Больше того,
And moreover, I said it publicly, I can reiterate.
в Кремле с уходящим от власти Белым
At a meeting here in the Kremlin with the outgoing President Bill Clinton, right here in the next room, I said to him,
Damn,
I
he's been
asked him,
president 20
Если
years,
бы Россия поставила вопрос о вступлении в НАТО,
Bill,
25 years.
do you think if
24.
Russia asked to join NATO, do you think it would happen?
он сказал, ты знаешь, это интересно.
Suddenly he said, you know, it's interesting. I think so.
Встретились. Уже на
But in the evening, when we met for dinner, he said, you know, I've talked to my team. No, it's not possible now.
Можете спросить.
What?
Я думаю, наши.
You can ask him. I think he will watch our interview. He'll
Никогда не
confirm it.
стал подобного
I
говорить,
wouldn't
если
have
этого
said
нет.
anything like that if it hadn't happened.
He wanted to
Okay.
join NATO.
Were you
It's
sincere?
impossible now.
Would you have joined NATO?
Послушайте,
Look, I asked the question, is it possible or not? And the answer I got was no. If I was insincere in my desire to find out what the leadership position was,
But if he had said yes, would you have joined NATO?
если бы он
if he had said yes, the process of rapprochement would have commenced, and eventually it might have happened if we had seen some sincere wish on the other side of our partners. But it didn't happen. Well, no means no. Okay,
Давайте будем.
fine.
Why do you think that is? Just to get
That's
some motive.
insane.
I know you're clearly
It's
bitter
gonna get
about
juicier.
it. I understand. But why do you think the West rebuffed you then? Why the hostility? Why did the end of the Cold War not fix the relationship? What motivates this from your point of view?
Вы сказали, что
You said I was bitter about the answer. No, it's not bitterness. It's just a statement of fact. We're not bride and groom, bitterness, resentment. It's not about those kind of matters in such circumstances. We just realized we weren't welcome there, that's all. Okay, fine. But let's build relations in another manner. Let's look for common ground elsewhere. Why we received such a negative response, you should ask your leaders. I can only guess why. Too big a country with its own opinion and so on. And the United States, I've seen how issues are being resolved in NATO.
Ну, я же видел, как решают.
I will give you another example now concerning
Еще
Ukraine.
один из примеров сейчас приведу, касающийся
The US leadership exerts pressure, and all NATO members obediently vote,
Путина голосуют. Даже если им
even
чего-то
if they
не
do
нравится.
not like
Сейчас
something.
я скажу в этой связи, что происходило с Украиной.
Now, I'll tell you what happened in this regard with Ukraine in 2008, although it's being discussed. I'm not going to open a secret to you, say
Мы пытались
anything new.
по-разному выстроить отношения.
Nevertheless, after that we tried to build relations in different ways.
События
For example, the events in the Middle East, in Iraq.
мы
We
очень
were building relations with the United States in a very soft, prudent, cautious manner. I repeatedly raised the issue that the United States should not support separatism or terrorism in the North
на
Caucasus,
Северном Кавказе. Но все равно продолжали это делать.
but they continue to do it anyway.
Политическая
And political
поддержка,
support,
информационная
information
поддержка,
support, financial
финансовая
support,
поддержка, даже
even
военная
military support came from the United States and its satellites for terrorist groups in the Caucasus.
террористические формирования в
Hold on.
I once raised this issue with my colleague, also the President of the United States.
Hold on.
He says, "It's impossible. Do you have
I'm
proof?"
tripping.
I said, "Yes." I was prepared for this conversation, and I gave him that proof.
Он посмотрел.
He looked at it, and you know what he said? I apologize, but that's what happened. I'll quote. He says, "Well, I'm gonna kick their ass." We waited and waited for some response. There was no reply.
Я говорю директору,
I said to the FSB director, "Write to the CIA, what is the result of the conversation with President?"
есть разговор с президентом.
He wrote once, twice, and then we got a reply. We have the answer in the archive. The CIA replied, "We have been working with the opposition in Russia. We believe that this is the right thing to do, and we will keep on doing it."
Смешно.
Just ridiculous.
Ну ладно, мы поняли, что
Well, okay. We realized that it was out of the question.
Forces in opposition to you. So you're saying the CIA is trying to overthrow your government.
Ну, конечно,
He
имелось в
said they
виду
put
в данном
terrorist
случае.
Of course, they meant in that
Caucasus.
particular case the
Without
separatists, the terrorists who fought with us in the Caucasus.
Называли.
He just said it.
That's who they called the opposition.
Это вот второй момент.
I'm tripping, gang.
Well, you said who in the Caucasus?
He said they put terrorists in the Caucasus. I'm tripping.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something else.
Like he said they're putting terrorist groups in the Caucasus.
Okay, I heard what you said. I heard.
It said Caucasus means the opposition.
Forces in opposition to you. So you're saying the CIA is trying to overthrow your government.
Ну, конечно, имелось в виду в данном
Of
случае.
course, they meant in that particular case the separatists, the terrorists who fought with us in the Caucasus.
Они их называли.
That's
That's
crazy.
who they called the opposition.
Это вот второй момент.
This is the
Третий
second
момент очень
point.
важный.
The third moment is a very important one. Is the moment when the US missile defense system was created.
Начало.
The beginning.
И мы долго уговаривали.
We persuaded for a long time not to do it in the United States.
Меня пригласили в
Moreover,
отец Буша
after was invited by Bush Jr.'s father, Bush Sr., to visit his place on the ocean,
Там состоялась очень серьезная беседа,
I had a very serious conversation with President Bush and his team.
чтобы
I proposed that the United States, Russia, and Europe jointly create a missile defense system that, we believe,
которая, как мы считаем,
if created unilaterally, threatens our security, despite the fact that the United States officially said that it was being created against missile threats from Iran.
угроз со стороны.
That was the justification for the deployment of the missile defense system. I suggested working together, Russia, the United States, and Europe. They said it was very interesting. They asked me, "Are you serious?" I said, "Absolutely."
May I ask, what year was this?
Ну, я не помню. Вот,
I don't remember.
в интернете, когда я был.
It is easy to find out on the internet when I was in the USA at the invitation of a Bush senior. It is even easier to learn from someone I'm going to tell you about.
Мне сказали, это очень интересно.
I was told it was very interesting. I said, just imagine if we could tackle such a global strategic security challenge together. The world will change. We'll probably have disputes, probably economic and even political ones, but we could drastically change the situation in the world. He says yes, and asks, "Are you serious?" I said, "Of course. We need to think about it," I'm told.
Вот в этот кабинет.
I said, "Go ahead, please." Then Secretary of Defense Gates, former director of CIA, and Secretary of State Rice came in here, in this cabinet, right here at this table. They sat on this table. Me, the foreign minister, the Russian defense minister on that side.
Министр обороны.
They said to me,
Они мне
"Yes, we have thought about it. We agree." I said, "Thank God, great,
Но
but with some exceptions."
So twice you've described U.S. presidents making decisions and then being undercut by their agency heads. So it sounds like you're describing a system that's not run by the people who were elected in your telling.
именно так.
That's right,
Конечно,
that's
в
right.
итоге нас послали подальше. Я не буду.
In the end, they just told us to get lost. I'm not going to tell you the details because I think it's
Nobody
incorrect.
likes CIA.
After all, it was confidential
Наше предложение
conversation.
было отклонено.
But our proposal was declined. That's a
Тогда,
fact.
именно тогда я сказал,
It was right then when I said, "Look, but then we will be forced to take countermeasures.
будем создавать такие
We will
удары.
create such strike systems that will certainly overcome missile defense systems."
Был такой. Мы
The answer was,
а вы
"We are
будете
not
что
doing
хотите.
this against you."
Okay, I see the problem here. So he tried to lend out his hand, here, get everybody to team up, and then we go over there to Ukraine and team up with them. That's the problem.
No, that's not what he was saying.
I know, but that's probably his main issue, though.
He's saying he feel like he keep getting backdoored by America. He be trying to come with a
We
policy.
went right over to Ukraine and trying to help them in a war that they're fighting against Russia, though.
Yeah.
But how did
And he
that's
tried
why
to
I
team
asked
up with
earlier,
us.
how did the US and Ukraine become allies and win?
Because of NATO, I think Ukraine's trying to be a part of NATO. I think that's the problem.
I
They
don't
said
know about
Ukraine they're trying to put Ukraine in NATO. That's why we're like fighting for 'em,
Yeah, that's
giving
the
all that
problem.
Money.
But
I
like,
believe that is correct.
why though?
I have no idea.
It's
bro.
it's a bordering state to all the other. Well,
That's what I keep thinking. Like it's okay. You see how the United States is, close to Japan, right? So we're trying to, keep our eye on China, and we're trying to keep our eye on Russia.
I got a question. Is Ukraine near water?
Yeah.
It
I
is.
think-
It says the United States established relations with Ukraine in '91 following its independence from the Soviet Union.
That's when they collapsed.
The U.S. attached great importance to the success of Ukraine's transition to a democratic state with the flourishing market economy. So they became allies with them because they became
democracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that one too, but that might not be the real reason though.
And it said the market they're making money there.
Yeah, it's right there on the water. That's why I say it's because
Because
Russia.
it says, and then it said at the end with the flourishing market economy. So they're making money there. They're democratic, So the U.S. is like, yeah, we can mess with them.
Okay, yeah.
And the Soviet Union had crashed. So why did it crash?
because of the
Russia-
Cold War, I think.
So-
after the end of the Cold War.
Okay, let's keep going. But okay, so he feels like that we could have been good partners with
America.
for building a nuclear system. that
Yeah.
would protect us
Missile
all.
defense system, I believe he said.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so Soviet Union collapsed basically because it was communist.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to war with them, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
No, we really didn't. The Cold War was just who had missiles everywhere. He said
Yeah.
who got the most. He's like,
It was
what's
like
up?
a flex war.
Yeah. it was-
World War II, we fought Russia though.
No,
Yes, we did.
I think Russia was with us.
No, I don't think
We
so.
was fighting. I think
Bro,
what
I
was
wasn't
Stalin?
against-
Was Stalin? No, I think Stalin was with Germany. I don't know.
We
I
were
might be
fighting
wrong
against Germany.
because Russia was
Yeah,
with us.
against Germany.
Russia was with
I know
America before in one of the
We
world
went to
wars.
war with the Soviet Union.
I promise you, America.
Wasn't that the Cold War?
I promise y'all.
No.
The Cold
Yeah, it
War.
was. Yeah.
I promise
It's
y'all, we
them
can
in
look up right
Vietnam.
now. I will put bread on it. America fought. Russia fought with America in one of
I
the
don't
wars.
think so.
I will put
No,
bread on
I'm
it.
talking about World War II. I don't know about World War One. But I know World War
One
II,
of 'em-
we were for sure fighting against
No,
Germany.
yeah, it was U.S. and they fought against Germany.
Yeah,
yeah.
we fought against Germany for sure. All right, come on.
The U.S. and the Soviet Union.
So that's World War II.
But our proposal was declined. That's a fact.
About the strings.
It was
still going.
right then when I said, look, but then we will be forced to take countermeasures. We will create such strike systems that will certainly overcome missile defense systems. The answer was, we are not doing this against you, and you do what you want, assuming that it is not against us, not against the United States. I said, okay. Very well. That's the way it went. And we created hypersonic systems with intercontinental range, and we continue to develop them. We are now ahead of everyone, the United States and the other countries, in terms of the development of hypersonic strike systems, and we are improving them every day. But it wasn't us. We proposed to go the other way, and we were pushed back. Now, about NATO's expansion to the east. Well, we were promised no NATO to the east, not an inch to the east, as we were told. And then what? They said, well, it's not enshrined on paper, so we'll expand. So there were 5 waves of expansion, the Baltic states, the whole of Eastern Europe, and so on. And now I come to the main thing. They have come to the Ukraine, ultimately. In 2008, at the summit in Bucharest, they declared that the doors for Ukraine and Georgia to join NATO were open. Now about how decisions are made there. Germany, France seem to be against it, as well as some other European countries. But then, as it turned out later, President Bush, and he's such a tough guy, a tough politician, as I was told later, he exerted pressure on us and we had to agree. It's ridiculous, it's like kindergarten. Where are the guarantees? What kindergarten is this? What kind of people are these? Who are they? You see, they were pressed, they agreed. And then they say, Ukraine won't be in the NATO, you know? I say, I don't know. I know you agreed in 2008. Why won't you agree in the future? Well, they pressed us then. I say, why won't they press you tomorrow? And you'll agree again. Well, it's nonsensical. Who's there to talk to? I just don't understand. We're ready to talk. But with whom? Where are the guarantees? None. So they started to develop the territory of Ukraine. Whatever is there, I have told you the background, how this territory developed, what kind of relations there were with Russia. Every second or third person there has always had some ties with Russia. And during the elections, in already independent, sovereign Ukraine, which gained its independence as a result of the Declaration of Independence, and by the way, it says that Ukraine is a neutral state, and in 2008, suddenly the doors or gates to NATO were open to it. Oh, come on. This is not how we agreed.
It's not on paper.
Now, all the presidents that have come to power in Ukraine, they relied on electorate with a good attitude to Russia in one way or the other. This is the southeast of Ukraine. This is a large number of people. And it was very difficult to dissuade this electorate, which had a positive attitude towards Russia. Viktor Yanukovych came to power, and how? The first time he won after President Kuchma, they organized a third round, which is not provided for in the constitution of Ukraine. This is a coup d'etat. Just imagine, someone in the United States wouldn't like the outcome.
In 2014?
Before that. No, this was before that. After President Kuchma, Viktor Yanukovych won the elections. However, his opponents did not recognize that victory. The US supported the opposition, and the third round was scheduled. What is this? This is a coup. The US supported it, and the winner of the third round came to power. Imagine if in the US something was not to someone's liking, and the third round of election, which the US Constitution does not provide for, was organized. Nonetheless, it was done in Ukraine. Okay, Viktor Yushchenko, who was considered a pro-Western politician, came to power.
Hey, I seen they
Fine,
try to
we have
assassinate
built
dude.
relations with him as well. He came to Moscow with visits. We visited Kiev. I visited too. We met in an informal setting. If he's pro-Western, so be it. It's fine. Let people do their job. The situation should have developed inside the independent Ukraine itself. As a result of Kuchma's leadership, things got worse and Viktor Yanukovych came to power after all. Maybe he wasn't the best president and politician, I don't know. I don't want to give assessments. However, the issue of the association with the EU came up. We have always been lenient to this, suit yourself. But when we read through the Treaty of Association, it turned out to be a problem for us, since we had a free trade zone and open customs borders with Ukraine, which under this association had to open its borders for Europe, which would have led to flooding of our market. We said, no, this is not going to work. We shall close our borders with Ukraine then. The customs borders, that is. Yanukovych started to calculate how much Ukraine was going to gain, how much to lose, and said to his European partners, I need more time to think before signing. The moment he said that, the opposition began to take destructive steps, which were supported by the West. It all came down to Maidan and a coup in Ukraine.
So he did more trade with Russia than with the EU. Ukraine did.
Of course. It's not even the matter of trade volume, although for the most part it is. It is the matter of cooperation ties, which the entire Ukrainian economy was based on. The cooperation ties between the enterprises were very close since the times of the Soviet Union. One enterprise there used to produce components to be assembled both in Russia and Ukraine and vice versa. They used to be very close ties. A coup d'etat was committed, although I shall not delve into details now, as I find doing it inappropriate, the US told us. Calm Yanukovych down, and we will calm the opposition. Let the situation unfold in the scenario of a political settlement. We said, all right, agreed, let's do it this way. As the Americans requested, Yanukovych did use neither the armed forces nor the police, yet the armed opposition committed a coup in Kiev. What is that supposed to mean? Who do you think you are? I wanted to ask the then US leadership.
With the backing of whom?
That's insane.
With the backing of CIA, of course. The organization you wanted to join back in the day, as I understand. We should thank God they didn't let you in. Although, it is a serious organization. I understand. My former vis-a-vis in the sense that I served in the first main directorate, Soviet Union's intelligence service. They have always been our opponents. A job is a job. Technically, they did everything right. They achieved their goal of changing the government. However, from political standpoint, it was a colossal mistake. Surely it was political leadership's miscalculation. They should have seen what it would evolve into. So, in 2008, the doors of NATO were opened for Ukraine. In 2014, there was a coup. They started persecuting those who did not accept the coup, and it was indeed a coup. They created a threat to Crimea, which we had to take under our protection. They launched the war in Donbass in 2014 with the use of aircraft and artillery against civilians. This is when it all started. There is a video of aircraft attacking Donetsk from above. They launched a large-scale military operation, then another one. When they failed, they started to prepare the next one. All this against the background of military development of this territory and opening of NATO's doors. How could we not express concern over what was happening? From our side, this would have been a culpable negligence. That's what it would have been. It's just that the US political leadership pushed us to the line we could not cross, because doing so could have ruined Russia itself. Besides, we could not leave our brothers in faith, in fact, a part of Russian people, in the face of this war machine.
But that was 8 years before the current conflict started. So what was the trigger for you? What was the moment where you
Trump
decided
really
you
calmed him
had
down, bro.
to do this?
Good question, Tuck.
Thanks.
Спровоцировал конфликт изначально.
Initially, it was the coup in Ukraine that provoked the conflict. By the way, back then the representatives of 3 European countries, Germany, Poland and France, arrived. They were the guarantors of the signed agreement between the government of Yanukovych and the opposition. They signed it as guarantors. Despite that, the opposition committed a coup, and all these countries pretended that they didn't remember that they were guarantors of the peaceful settlement. They just threw it in the stove right away, and nobody recalls that. I don't know if the US know anything about the agreement between the opposition and the authorities, and its 3 guarantors who, instead of bringing this whole situation back in the political field, supported the coup.
Is it China?
Although it was meaningless, believe me. Because President Yanukovych agreed to all conditions, he was ready to hold an early election which he had no chance of winning, frankly speaking.
Yeah, I think.
Everyone knew that. Then why the coup? Why the victims? Why threatening Crimea? Why launching an operation in Donbass? This I do not understand. That is exactly what the miscalculation is. CIA did its job to complete the coup. I think one of the deputy secretaries of state said that it cost a large sum of money, almost 5 billion. But the political mistake was colossal. Why would they have to do that? All this could have been done legally, without victims, without military action, without losing Crimea.
Wow.
We would have never considered to even lift a finger if it hadn't been for the bloody developments on Maidan. Because we agreed with the fact that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, our borders should be along the borders of former Union's republics. We agreed to that. But we never agreed to NATO's expansion, and moreover, we never agreed that Ukraine would be in NATO. We did not agree to NATO bases there without any discussion with us. For decades, we kept asking, don't do this, don't do that. And what triggered the latest events? Firstly, the current Ukrainian leadership declared that it would not implement the Minsk agreements, which had been signed, as you know, after the events of 2014 in Minsk, where the plan of peaceful settlement in Donbass was set forth. But no, the current Ukrainian leadership, foreign minister, all other officials, and then president himself said that they don't like anything about the Minsk agreements. In other words, they were not going to implement it. A year or a year and a half ago, former leaders of Germany and France said openly to the whole world that they indeed signed the Minsk agreements, but they never intended to implement them. They simply led us by the nose.
Was there anyone for you to talk to? Did you call a U.S. President, Secretary of State and say, if you keep militarizing Ukraine with NATO forces, this is going to be we're going to act?
We talked about this all the time. We addressed the United States and European countries' leadership to stop these developments immediately, to implement the Minsk agreements. Frankly speaking, I didn't know how we were going to do this, but I was ready to implement them. These agreements were complicated for Ukraine. They included lots of elements of those Donbass territories' independence. That's true. However, I was absolutely confident, and I'm saying this to you now. I honestly believe that If we managed to convince the residents of Donbass, and we had to work hard to convince them to return to the Ukrainian statehood, then gradually the wounds would start to heal. When this part of territory reintegrated itself into common social environment, when the pensions and social benefits were paid again, all the pieces would gradually fall into place. No, nobody wanted that. Everybody wanted to resolve the issue by military force only. But we could not let that happen. And the situation got to the point when the Ukrainian side announced, no, we will not do anything. They also started preparing for military action. It was they who started the war in 2014. Our goal is to stop this war. And we did not start this war in 20.
So when Obama was in office, he's saying Obama didn't want to stop this. Trump came in 16. I ain't really hear about nothing with Ukraine or Russia for a long time until somebody else came back in the office.
I'm getting two things here. I'm getting Putin. This is the principle for Putin, and I'm getting he might be a little control freak a little bit about the situation to me.
Yeah, I am getting that to him. A lot of the thing is, yeah.
Like he is, it is the principle for sure. He said not to do it, but at the same time, like if that country's trying to be a free democracy, like if the United States wants to help them,
but he probably feel like he's getting enclosed. Then he said they trying to watch on them, and then they putting.
But yeah, I see what you're saying though. He seems like he's just upset that they are being a democracy, joining NATO, and working with the U.S.
Yeah, he said they never agreed to that.
Yeah.
He said they joined it and
why do they have to
they're
agree to that with
independent.
you know?
Because he
But I
said
mean, he said
they're
that-
part of
they
the
had
union.
ties. They used to have ties, I guess.
They're
But
part of
if
the
they're
Soviet.
independent though, they're independent.
So you know what I'm
They
saying?
can do
Like
what
why
they
we gotta
want.
go through you?
But I mean,
Exactly.
he's making. I feel like he's making it seem like they
That's
just
a good
start
point.
moving and doing a bunch of stuff that was never agreed to, and like if they ain't supposed to have ties and be in some sort of alliance,
Well, okay, well,
y'all
Ukraine,
kind of
right?
breaking y'all alliance by doing all this shit without discussing it with us when we the bigger power than y'all and we
Yeah.
gave y'all independence.
Okay, yeah,
I feel
can
like
see
that's
that.
how
yeah,
I'm
that's a
interpreting
backstabbing
it.
for sure for them.
So he like, all right, y'all
the
moving.
United States, we don't owe y'all no kind of loyalty in a situation. you
Yeah,
know?
and it's
That's
not
Russia.
United States that they have the
Yeah.
problem. They have a problem with Ukraine doing all this
they're
shit.
upset with Ukraine.
Like y'all supposed to be cool with us now.
But
Y'all
then, what's the
moving
point of
different.
giving a country their democracy if you're gonna control them anyways?
Well,
Are
I
they
mean,
really a
aren't they
democracy?
supposed
Are
to have
they-
some
they-
alliance with them? You know what I'm saying? They moving like this is a European Eastern alliance. You feel me? So
Yeah, see, it depends if they had a contract that said y'all can't join NATO or not.
They probably did.
Yeah, he said they did.
He said they had a word. There was nothing written.
He said it was a treaty that they said that they weren't going
We
to
said
go.
nothing was written. That's why the U.S. still did it.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah, he said it was not on paper. That's
So
why the US
that's where it
kept
gets
going.
foggy to me because the person he made that deal with could be like, no, I didn't say that. I said this. You know, that would have come down to almost he said, she said. It doesn't make sense, if we're keeping it real, it doesn't make sense for two leaders of a country to make an agreement and not put it on paper, I think.
Yeah, somebody for
So I don't
sure
know.
want to get somebody.
But he was talking to America to talk to NATO probably because like he did say he wanted to be a part of NATO. So
Yeah.
what is that's why
They
I'm
said they couldn't
confused.
get that done. I mean, like a lot
I
of
wish
people probably,
I wish we could hear from the people he said he was
yeah, a lot
talking
of people
to.
don't want to probably be involved with Russia, you know. So I can see why that.
Why not?
I don't know why not. That's a powerful
The
nation.
history.
Yeah, they got beef. They think different. They do things a little different.
I know they not a democracy. Like you know,
Little pause, guy.
is he considered a dictator, right?
Maybe they don't vote him out or in
Because like he been there for like
our whole lives.
Is he considered a democracy? Hell no.
he a no. I'm
Yeah,
saying.
oh, I thought that's what you said. My
I
bad.
thought-
dictator. Would
I
he be a
wonder,
dictator?
is he considered a dictator or just a communist
I don't know.
president?
He seems like a cool guy. Like, I don't think like when I think about dictator, I think
Socialism.
about, if you go against me, boy.
I wonder what all he's done because I know Stalin.
I
they
think
said-
about King
He
John
even said
Newman.
Stalin was doing crazy stuff. Like they was on some.
Yeah, Stalin was the. I'm trying to get somebody zip. I'm putting money on your head.
Okay, well,
He probably would have liked the YB right now.
Oh, buddy, who is YB, man?
I know, man.
The situation got to the point when the Ukrainian side announced, no,
we'll
we
wait
will
on
not
that.
do.
How much longer? Just out of curiosity.
Probably an hour, bro. It feels like we've been going for a little minute, though. Yeah, about an hour left. How y'all? What y'all think about the chat, man? I know. Let me read the donations, man. I want to stop on y'all donations, but it's hard, man.
It's freaking cold in here, bro.
Once Ukraine joins NATO, all of the countries that make up NATO will invade Russia.
Hell no, no way. Is that a fact?
I don't know.
That's just what that
what
person
Yeah,
commented.
that's what they said.
I don't think the U.S. is
Anything.
waiting on one country to do
They
that.
also started preparing for military action.
Войну начали они.
It was they who started the war in 2014. Our goal is to stop this
Мы не
war,
начинали ее.
and we did not start this war in 2022. This is an attempt to stop it.
Do you think you've stopped it now? I mean, have you achieved your aims?
No, we haven't achieved our aims yet, because one of them is denazification. This means the prohibition of all kinds of neo-Nazi movements. This is one of the problems that we discussed during the negotiation process, which ended in Istanbul early this year.
Который завершился в Стамбуле в прошлом году в начале. Но
And it was not our initiative, because we were told by the Europeans, in particular, that it was necessary to create conditions for the final signing of the documents. My counterparts in France and Germany said,
в Германии говорили, ну как ты себе представляешь, как они будут подписывать?
how can you imagine them signing a treaty with a gun to their heads? The troops should be pulled back from Kiev. I said, all right. We withdrew the troops from Kiev.
Извините, от Киева.
As soon as we pulled back our troops from Kiev, our Ukrainian negotiators immediately threw all our agreements reached in Istanbul into the bin
Договоренности, достигнутые в Стамбуле.
and got prepared for a long-standing armed confrontation with the help of the United States and its satellites in Europe.
Вот.
That is how the situation has developed. And that is how it looks now.
Да.
But what is, pardon my ignorance, what is denazification? What would that mean? What is,
Да, вот я как раз хочу сейчас об этом
I was
сказать.
wondering that.
Это очень важный вопрос. Денацификация.
That is what I want to talk about right now. It is a very important issue. Denazification.
Искать, как говорят некоторые аналитики.
After gaining independence, Ukraine began to search, as some Western analysts say,
Как
its
поставить
identity.
во главу угла этой идентичности.
And it came up with nothing better than to build this identity upon some false heroes who collaborated with Hitler.
Которые сотрудничали с Гитлером.
The UN.
Я уже говорил, что
I have already said that in the early 19th century, when the theorists of independence and sovereignty of Ukraine appeared, they assumed that an independent Ukraine should have very good relations with Russia.
но в силу исторического развития
But due to the historical development, those territories were part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Poland, where Ukrainians were persecuted and treated quite brutally, as well as were subject to cruel behavior.
идентичность и вели себя очень жестоко. Это все осталось в памяти.
There were also attempts to destroy their identity.
Когда началась Вторая мировая война, часть этой
All this remained in the memory of the people. When World War II broke out, part of this extremely nationalist elite collaborated with Hitler, believing that he would bring them freedom.
она начала сотрудничать с Гитлером, полагая, что
The German troops, even the SS troops, made Hitler's collaborators do the dirtiest work of exterminating the Polish and Jewish population.
грязную работу
Hence, this brutal massacre of the Polish and Jewish population, believing that he would bring them freedom.
она начала сотрудничать с Гитлером, полагая, что
The German troops, even the SS troops, made Hitler's collaborators do the dirtiest work of exterminating the Polish and Jewish population.
грязную работу
Hence, this brutal massacre of the Polish and Jewish population, as well as the Russian population too.
коллаборационистам, которые с Гитлером сотрудничали. Вот отсюда вот эта жестокая резня.
This was led by the persons who are well known, Bandera, Gershkovich. It was those people who were made national heroes. That is the problem. And we are constantly told that nationalism and neo-Nazism exist in other countries as well. Yes, they are seedlings, but we approved them, and other countries fight against them. But Ukraine is not the case. These people have been made into national heroes in Ukraine. Monuments to those people have been erected. They are displayed on flags. Their names are shouted by crowds that walk with torches, as it was in Nazi Germany.
Pause.
Damn.
So he's saying that in Ukraine they got Nazi people, like people who are basically saying Nazi ideology, like basically idolizing them. Is that what? Am I understanding that correctly?
That's what I'm kind of
Probably so, but you know, they also, I heard in Ukraine they try to take Christianity out of Ukraine
Yeah, no,
too.
I've heard that as well.
So like,
Yeah, no, that is. Yeah, I forgot about that.
there's all type of stuff going on, man.
I ain't gonna
do remember
lie.
that.
This is actually insane.
This is an insane interview,
Okay,
bro.
wow.
It's just it's like a lot of history just being spreaded right here.
No, he's going
But
crazy.
there is always two sides to every story.
Yeah,
It is too, for
a lot of
sure.
people, especially in the chat right now, they're saying, "Man, I can't. Y'all don't believe anything that comes out this guy's mouth." You know, hey, somebody said I believe him more than Joe Biden. So let's run it, cool.
Have been erected. They are displayed on flags. Their names are shouted by crowds that walk with torches, as it was in Nazi Germany.
Возводят. Они на флагах, они их имена кричат.
These were people who exterminated Poles, Jews, and Russians.
Это люди, которые уничтожали поляков, евреев и русских.
It is necessary to stop this practice and prevent the dissemination of this concept. I say that Ukrainians are part of the one Russian people. They say, no, we are a separate people. Okay, fine. If they consider themselves a separate people, they have the right to do so, but not on the basis of Nazism, the Nazi ideology.
Would you be satisfied with the territory that you have now?
Good question.
Нет, сейчас закончим. Вы же задали вопрос по неонацизму и денацификации.
I will finish answering the question. You just asked a question about neo-Nazism and denazification.
Замалчивается на Западе.
Look, the president of Ukraine visited Canada. This story is well known, but being silenced in the Western countries.
Спикер парламента.
The Canadian Parliament introduced a man who, as the Speaker of the Parliament said, fought against the Russians during the World War II. Well, who fought against the Russians during the World War II? Hitler and his accomplices. It turned out that this man served in the SS troops. He personally killed Russians, Poles, and Jews. The SS troops consisted of Ukrainian nationalists who did this dirty work. The president of Ukraine stood up with the entire Parliament of Canada and applauded this man. How can this be imagined? The president of Ukraine himself, by the way, is a Jew by nationality.
Really, my question is, what do you do about it? I mean, Hitler's been dead for 80 years. Nazi Germany no longer exists. And so, true. And so, I think what you're saying is you want to extinguish or at least control Ukrainian nationalism. But how? How do you do that?
Hey, chat, chill.
Вот послушайте меня. Ваш вопрос очень тонкий.
Listen to me. Your question is very subtle, and I can tell you what I think. Do not take offense.
Of course.
Он, казалось бы, тонкий, он очень противный, этот вопрос.
This question appears to be subtle. It is quite pesky.
Значит,
You say Hitler has been dead for so many years,
люди, которые
80 years.
уничтожали
But his
евреев,
example
русских и
lives on.
поляков, живы.
People who exterminated Jews, Russians, and Poles are alive.
Сегодняшней Украины
And the
аплодирует
president,
ему
the
в
current
канадском
president of
парламенте,
today's Ukraine,
аплодирует
applauds him
стоя.
in the Canadian parliament, gives a standing ovation.
Целиком выкорчевали
Can we
эту
say that
идеологию,
we have
если
completely
то, что мы
uprooted
видим,
this
происходит
ideology
сегодня?
if what we see is
Вот что
happening
такое
today?
денацификация в нашем
That is what
Надо
denazification
избавиться от
is
этих
in
людей,
our
которые,
understanding.
эту
We have to get rid of those people who
теорию
maintain
практику
this concept and support this
оставляют
practice
жизни
and
и
try to
устраивают
preserve it.
Украине.
That
Вот
is
что
what
такое
denazification
денацификация.
is.
Вот
That
что под
is
этим
what we mean.
Right. My question was a little more specific. It was, of course, not a defense of Nazis, neo or otherwise. It was a practical question. You don't control the entire country. You don't control Kiev. You don't seem like you want to. So how do you eliminate a culture or an ideology or feelings or a view of history in a country that you don't control. What do you do about that?
А вы
That's a
знаете,
great question.
He's
как
asking
вам не
really good
покажется
questions.
странным, в ходе
He is.
переговоров в Стамбуле
You know, as strange as it may seem to you, during the negotiations in Istanbul, we did agree that we have it all in writing. Neo-Nazism would not be cultivated in Ukraine, including that it would be prohibited at the legislative level. Mr. Carlson, we agreed on that. This, it turns out, can be done during the negotiation process. And there's nothing humiliating for Ukraine as a modern civilized state. Is any state allowed to promote Nazism? It is not, is it? That is it.
Ведь нет, правда? Вот и всё.
Will there be talks, and why haven't there been talks about resolving the conflict in Ukraine? Peace talks.
Another great question.
Они
Right.
были, они дошли до очень высокой стадии согласования позиций, сложно.
They have been. They reached a very high stage of coordination of positions in a complex process, but still they were almost finalized. But after we withdrew our troops from Kiev, as I have already said, the other side threw away all these agreements and obeyed the instructions of Western countries, European countries, and the United States to fight Russia to the bitter end. Moreover, the president of Ukraine has legislated a ban on negotiating with Russia. He signed a decree forbidding everyone to negotiate with Russia. But how are we going to negotiate if he forbade himself and everyone to do this? We know that he is putting forward some ideas about this settlement, but in order to agree on something, we need to have a dialogue. Is that not right?
Well, but you wouldn't be speaking to the Ukrainian president, you'd be speaking to the American president. When was the last time you spoke to Joe Biden?
I cannot remember when I talked to him. I do not remember. We can look it up.
You don't remember?
No. Why? Do I have to remember everything? I have my own things to do. We have domestic political affairs.
Well, he's funding the war that you're fighting, so I would think that would be memorable.
Yeah.
Да, он финансирует.
Well, yes, he funds, but I talked to him before the special military operation, of course. And I said to him then, by the way, I will not go into details, I never do, but I said to him then, I believe that you are making a huge mistake of historic proportions by supporting everything that is happening there, in Ukraine, by pushing Russia away. I told him repeatedly, by the way. I think that would be correct if I stop here.
What did he say?
Можно, у него
Ask him, please. It is easier for you. You are a citizen of the United States. Go and ask him. It is not appropriate for me to comment on our conversation.
But you haven't spoken to him since before February of 2022.
Нет, мы не разговариваем. Но у нас есть.
No, we haven't spoken.
Кстати говоря,
Certain contacts are being maintained, though. Speaking of which,
про мое предложение.
do you remember what I told you about my proposal to work together on a missile
So-
defense system?
They're not even
Yeah.
looking to solve the issue.
Можно спросить у всех. Они
You
же
can ask all of them. All of them are safe and sound, thank God.
бывший президент.
The former president, Condoleezza, is safe and sound, and I think Mr. Gates and the current director of the intelligence agency, Mr. Burns, the then ambassador to Russia, in my opinion, are very
Yes.
successful ambassador.
Они все свидетели этих разговоров.
They were all witnesses to these conversations.
То же самое,
Ask them.
если вам интересно, что ответил.
Same here. If you are interested in what Mr. President Biden responded to me, ask him. At any rate, I talked to him about it.
I'm definitely interested, but from the outside, it seems like this
What did you
could
say?
devolve or evolve into something that brings the entire world into conflict and could initiate a nuclear launch. And so why don't you just call Biden and say, let's work this out?
Biden can't pick up the phone.
А что решать?
This is a good question. This is where
What's there to work out? It's very simple. I repeat,
Есть контакты по линии там различных.
we have contacts through various agencies.
Я вам скажу, что мы говорим на этот счет.
I will tell you what we are saying on this matter and what we are conveying to the US leadership.
Боевые.
If you really want to stop fighting, You need to stop supplying weapons. It will be over within a few weeks. That's it. And then we can agree on some terms. Before you do that, stop. What's easier? Why would I call him?
So he really
What
don't want
should
to
I talk
invade.
to him about? Or beg him for what?
And what messages do you get back?
They already have.
You're going to deliver such and such weapons to Ukraine? Oh, I'm afraid. Please don't. What is there to talk about?
Do you think NATO is worried about this becoming a global war or a nuclear conflict?
Oh, shit. These questions, good.
At least that's what they're talking about. And they're trying to intimidate their own population with an imaginary Russian threat. This is an obvious fact. And thinking people, not Philistines, but thinking people, analysts, those who are engaged in real politics, just smart people, understand perfectly well that this is a fake. They're trying to fuel the Russian threat.
The threat I think you're referring to is a Russian invasion of Poland, Latvia, expansionist behavior. Can you imagine a scenario where you sent Russian troops to Poland?
That's a big
Только в
question.
одном случае, если со стороны
Only in one case, if Poland attacks Russia. Why? Because we have no interest in Poland, Latvia, or anywhere else.
Oh God.
Why would we do that? We simply don't have any interest. It's just threat mongering.
Well, the argument, I know you know this, is that, well, he invaded Ukraine, he has territorial aims across the continent, and you're saying unequivocally you don't.
Long pause.
это абсолютно исключено.
Absolutely not.
It is absolutely out of the question. You just don't have to be any kind of analyst. It goes against common sense to get involved in some kind of a global war.
Глобальная война поставить на грань.
And a global war will bring all humanity to the brink of destruction. It's obvious.
Especially in today's times.
We don't want
The
that.
There
nuclear
are
weapons.
certainly means of deterrence. They have been scaring everyone with us all along. Tomorrow Russia will use tactical nuclear weapons. Tomorrow Russia will use that. No, the day after tomorrow. So what?
Выбить из налогоплательщиков
In order to
США
extort additional money from US taxpayers and European taxpayers
Extort.
in the confrontation with Russia in the Ukrainian theater of war.
как можно.
The goal is to weaken Russia as much as possible.
One of our senior United States senators from the state of New York, Chuck Schumer, said yesterday, I believe, that we have to continue to fund the Ukrainian effort, or U.S. soldiers, citizens could wind up fighting there. How do you assess that?
Great question.
Yeah, he's coming with good questions.
Это провокация.
This is a provocation, and a cheap provocation at that.
Американские солдаты должны воевать.
I do not understand why American soldiers should fight in Ukraine. There are mercenaries from the United States there. The bigger number of mercenaries comes from Poland, with mercenaries from the United States in second place and mercenaries from Georgia in third place.
Безусловно.
Well, if somebody has the desire to send regular troops, that would certainly bring humanity to the brink of very serious global conflict.
Ooh, he said that's active.
This is
war, basically.
obvious. Do the United States need this? What for?
Национальной территории. У вас нечем заниматься.
Thousands of miles away from your national territory.
He said if they come,
Don't you have anything better to do?
Damn.
You have issues on the border,
Damn.
issues with migration, issues with the national debt.
Damn.
More than $33 trillion.
Hold
You have
on, bro.
nothing better to do, so
Be
you
quiet,
should fight
bro.
in Ukraine,
Laughing loud as hell.
thousands of miles away from your national territory.
Границы полно. Проблемы с
Don't you have anything better to do?
с государством.
You have issues on the border, issues with migration, issues with the national debt. More than $33 trillion. You have nothing better to do, so you should fight in Ukraine?
Понимая ситуацию, которая складывается.
Wouldn't it be better to negotiate with Russia? Make an agreement, already understanding the situation that is developing today,
he don't want
realizing
us
that
to
Russia
do that
will
either.
fight for its interests to the end,
Oh, that was a
and
threat right
realizing
there.
this, actually return to do, so you should fight in Ukraine?
понимая ситуацию, которая складывается.
Wouldn't it be better to negotiate with Russia, make an agreement, already understanding the situation that is developing today, realizing that Russia will fight for its interests to the end,
Здравому смыслу.
and realizing this, actually return to common sense, start respecting our country and its interests, and look for certain solutions? It seems to me that this is much smarter and more rational.
Who blew up Nord Stream?
I can agree.
That was better.
You
fine.
for sure.
I was busy that day. Nate, do you have? I did not blow up
То есть
Nord
у вас-
Stream.
у
Thank
вас-
you, though.
У вас лично, может быть, есть алиби, у вас лично.
You personally may have an alibi, but the CIA has no such alibi.
Do you have evidence that NATO or the CIA did it?
Did what exactly?
Blew up some country or some place. Blew something up.
Вы знаете, я не
You know, I won't get into details, but people always say in such cases, look for someone who is interested. But in this case, we should not only look for someone who is interested, but also for someone who has capabilities. Because there may be many people interested, but not all of them are capable of sinking to the bottom of the Baltic Sea and carrying out this explosion. These two components should be connected. Who is interested and who is capable of doing it?
But I'm confused. I mean, that's the biggest act of industrial terrorism ever, and it's the largest emission of CO2 in history. Okay, so if you had evidence, and presumably given your security services, your intel services, you would, that NATO, the US, CIA, the West did this, why wouldn't you present it and win a propaganda victory?
Oh, it was a
Good
pipeline that
question.
they blew up. It was a pipeline.
What?
в войне
Oh,
пропаганда очень сложно.
In the war of propaganda, it is very difficult to defeat the United States
Whoa.
because the United States controls all the world's media and many European media.
What?
The ultimate beneficiary of
sense.
the biggest European media are American financial institutions.
That makes sense.
Don't you know that?
That's crazy.
So it
makes
is
a lot of
possible
sense.
to get involved in this work, but it is cost prohibitive, so to speak.
Мы можем
We can simply shine the spotlight on our sources of information, and we will not achieve results. It is clear to the whole world what happened, and even American analysts talk about it directly. It's true.
Yes, but here's a question you may be able to answer. You worked in Germany, famously. The Germans clearly know that their NATO partner did this, and it damaged their economy greatly. It may never recover. Why are they being silent about it? That's very confusing to me. Why wouldn't the Germans say something about it?
Ну, меня это тоже удивляет.
This also confuses me. But today's German leadership is guided by the interests of the collective West rather than its national interests. Otherwise, it is difficult to explain the logic of their action or inaction. After all, it is not only about Nord Stream 1, which was blown up, and the Nord Stream 2 was damaged, but one pipe is safe and sound and gas can be supplied to Europe through it. But Germany does not open it. We are ready, please.
Но Германия же не открывает его.
There's another route through Poland called Yamal Europe, which also allows for large flow. Poland has closed it, but Poland packs from the German hand. It receives money from the pan-European funds, and Germany is the main donor to these pan-European funds.
What was that, bro?
Somebody came in.
What was that?
What was that? What was that?
That was a door.
Man, it feels like sound like somebody just fell.
I don't know
sure.
what the heck happened. We're back to the street though. I ain't gonna lie, Putin is getting spicy right now. I ain't gonna lie.
He dropping gems.
Couple of them. I don't know
I
the
ain't gonna
truth,
say
you
that,
know.
yeah.
I don't know the truth, but you know, it sounds pretty good, man.
It's interesting to hear him, though.
There's another route through Poland called Yamal Europe, which also allows for large flow. Poland has closed it, but Poland packs from the German hand. It receives money from the pan-European funds, and Germany is the main donor to these pan-European funds. Germany feeds Poland to a certain extent, and they close their route to Germany. Why? I don't understand. Ukraine, to which the Germans supply weapons and give money. Germany is the second sponsor of the United States in terms of financial aid to Ukraine. There are 2 gas routes through Ukraine. They simply closed one route, the Ukrainians. Open the second route and please get gas from Russia. They do not open it. Why don't the Germans say, look guys, we give you money and weapons, open up the valve, please, let the gas from Russia pass through for us. We're buying liquefied gas at exorbitant prices in Europe, which brings the level of our competitiveness and economy in general down to zero. Do you want us to give you money? Let us have the decent existence. Make money for our economy, because this is where the money we give you comes from. They refuse to do so. Why? Ask them. That is what is like in their heads. Those are highly incompetent people.
Well, maybe the world is breaking into 2 hemispheres, one with cheap energy, the other without. And I want to ask you that. If we're now a multipolar world, obviously we are, can you describe the blocks of alliances? Who is in each side, do you think?
Listen, you have said that the world is breaking into 2 hemispheres. A human brain is divided into 2 hemispheres. One is responsible for one type of activities, the other one is more about creativity and so on. But it is still one and the same head. The world should be a single whole. Security should be shared rather than meant for the golden billion. That is the only scenario where the world could be stable, sustainable, and predictable. Until then, while the head is split in 2 parts, it is an illness,
don't like that.
a serious adverse condition. It is a period of severe disease that the world is going through now. But I think that, thanks to honest journalism, this work is akin to work of the doctors. This could somehow be remedied.
Well, let's just give one example, the US dollar, which has kind of united the world in a lot of ways, maybe not to your advantage, but certainly to ours. Is that going away as the reserve currency, the universally accepted currency? How have sanctions, do you think, changed the dollar's place in the world?
You know, to use the dollar as a tool of foreign policy struggle is one of the biggest strategic mistakes made by the US political leadership. The dollar is the cornerstone of the United States power. I think everyone understands very well that no matter how many dollars are printed, they are quickly dispersed all over the world. Inflation in the United States is minimal. It's about 3 or 3.4%, which is, I think, totally acceptable for the US. But they won't stop printing. What does the debt of $33 trillion tell us about? It is about the emission. Nevertheless, it is the main weapon used by the United States to preserve its power across the world. As soon as the political leadership decided to use the US dollar as a tool of political struggle, a blow was dealt to this American power. I would not like to use any strong language, but it is a stupid thing to do and a grave mistake. Look at what is going on in the world. Even the United States allies are now downsizing their dollar reserves. Seeing this, everyone starts looking for ways to protect themselves. But the fact that the United States applies restrictive measures to certain countries, such as placing restrictions on transactions, freezing assets, etc., causes grave concern and sends a signal to the whole world. What did we have here? Until 2022, about 80% of Russian foreign trade transactions were made in US dollars and euros. US dollars accounted for approximately 50% of our transactions with third countries. while currently it is down to 13%.
Damn.
It wasn't us who banned the use of the US dollar.
США приняли решение ограничить наши расчеты в долларах.
We had no such intention. It was decision of the United States to restrict our transactions in US dollars. I think it is complete foolishness from the point of view of the interests of the United States itself and its taxpayers, as it damages the US economy, undermines the power of the United States across the world. By the way, our transactions in yuan accounted for about 3%.
Сейчас 34%
Today, 34% of our transactions are made in rubles and about as much,
What are
a
rubles?
little over 34% in yuan.
That's their currency.
I don't think that's their currency.
Why did the United States do
He said it
this?
was euros.
My only guess is self-conceit.
I don't think they
They
use.
probably thought it would lead to full collapse, but nothing collapsed. Moreover, other countries, including oil producers, are thinking of and already accepting payments for oil in yuan. Do you even realize what is going on or not?
Ну, вы понимаете, что это такое происходит?
Does anyone in the United
Right.
States realize this?
Понимаете, в тех же Соединенных Штатах, что
What are you doing? You are cutting yourself
сами
off.
себе
All
обрезаете
experts say this.
то, что
Joe Biden.
Ask any intelligent and thinking person in the United States what the dollar means for the US.
But
You're killing it with your own hands.
I think that's I think that's a fair assessment. The question is what comes next, and maybe you trade one colonial power for another, much less sentimental and forgiving colonial power. I mean, is the BRICS, for example, in danger of being completely dominated by the Chinese economy in a way that's not good for their sovereignty? Do you worry about that?
эти страшилки нам
Well, we have heard those boogeyman stories before. It is a boogeyman story. We're neighbors with China. You cannot choose neighbors just as you cannot choose close relatives. We share a border of 1,000 kilometers with them. This is number one. Second, we have a centuries-long history of coexistence. We're used to it. Third, China's foreign policy philosophy is not aggressive. Its idea is to always look for compromise, and we can see that.
у нас
The next
Saying
point is as
They
follows.
locked in.
We are always told the same boogeyman story, and here it goes again. Through an euphemistic form, but it is still the same boogeyman story. The cooperation with China keeps increasing. The pace at which China's cooperation with Europe is growing is higher and greater than that of the growth of Chinese-Russian cooperation. Ask Europeans, aren't they afraid? They might be, I don't know. But they are still trying to access China's market at all costs, especially now that they are facing economic problems.
и китайские.
Chinese businesses are also exploring the European market. Do Chinese businesses have small presence in the United States? Yes, the political decisions are such that they are trying to limit their cooperation with China. It is to your own detriment, Mr. Tucker, that you are limiting cooperation with China. You are hurting yourself. It is a delicate matter, and there are no silver bullet solutions, just as it is with the dollar. So, before introducing any illegitimate sanctions, illegitimate in terms of the Charter of the United Nations, one should think very carefully. For decision makers, this appears to be a problem.
So you said a moment ago that the world would be a lot better if it weren't broken into competing alliances, if there was cooperation
Putin like a
globally.
thug.
One of the reasons you don't have that is because the current American administration is dead set against you. Do you think if there were a new administration after Joe Biden that you would be able to reestablish communication with the U.S. government? Or does it not matter who the president is?
That's a great fucking question.
That is.
Really?
Damn.
I'm sorry.
One of the reasons you don't have that is because the current American administration is dead set against you. Do you think if there were a new administration after Joe Biden that you would be able to reestablish communication with the U.S. government? Or does it not matter who the president is?
сейчас скажу, но чтобы закончить предыдущий вопрос.
I will tell you, but let me finish the previous thought. We, together with my colleague and friend, President Xi Jinping, set a goal to reach $200 billion of mutual trade with China this year. We have exceeded this level. According to our figures, our bilateral trade with China totals already $230 billion. And the Chinese statistics says it is $240 billion. One more important thing. Our trade is well balanced, mutually complementary in high-tech, energy, scientific research and development. It is very balanced. As for BRICS, where Russia took over the presidency this year, the BRICS countries are, by and large, developing very rapidly. Look, if memory serves me right, back in 1992, the share of the G7 countries in the world economy amounted to 47%, whereas in 2022 it was down to, I think, a little over 30%. The BRICS countries accounted for only 16% in 1992, but now their share is greater than that of the G7. It has nothing to do with the events in Ukraine. This is due to the trends of global development and world economy, as I mentioned just now. And this is inevitable. This will keep happening. It is like the rise of the sun. You cannot prevent the sun from rising. You have to adapt to it. How do the United States adapt? With the help of force, sanctions, pressure, bombings, and use of armed forces. This is about self-conceit. Your political establishment does not understand that the world is changing under objective circumstances. And in order to preserve your level, even if someone aspires, pardon me, to the level of dominance, you have to make the right decisions in a competent and timely manner. Such brutal actions, including with regard to Russia and, say, other countries, are counterproductive.
It sounds like he's saying Russia.
This is an obvious fact. It has already become evident.
That's what he's saying, pretty mean.
You just asked me if another leader comes and changes something. It is not about the leader. It is not about the personality of a particular person. I had a very good relationship with, say, Bush. I know that in the United States, he was portrayed as some kind of a country boy who does not understand much. I assure you that this is not the case. I think he made a lot of mistakes with regard to Russia, too. I told you about 2008 and the decision in Bucharest to open the NATO's doors for Ukraine and so on. That happened during his presidency. He actually exercised pressure on the Europeans. But in general, on a personal human level, I had a very good relationship with him. He was no worse than any other American or Russian or European politician. I assure you, he understood what he was doing as well as others. I had such personal relationship with Trump as well. It is not about the personality of the leader. It is about the elite's mindset. If the idea of domination at any cost, based also on forceful actions, dominates the American society, nothing will change. It will only get worse. But if, in the end, one comes to the awareness that the world has been changing due to the objective circumstances, and that one should be able to adapt to them in time, using the advantages that the US still has today, then perhaps something may change. Look, China's economy has become the first economy in the world in purchasing power parity. In terms of volume, it overtook the US a long time ago. The USA comes second, then India, 1.5 billion people, and then Japan, with Russia in the 5th place. Russia was the first economy in Europe last year, despite all the sanctions and restrictions. Is it normal from your point of view? Sanctions, restrictions, impossibility of payments in dollars, being cut off from SWIFT services, sanctions against our ships carrying oil, sanctions against airplanes, sanctions in everything, everywhere. The largest number of sanctions in the world which are applied against Russia. And we have become Europe's first economy during this time. The tools that US uses don't work. Well, one has to think about what to do. If this realization comes to the ruling elites, then yes, then the first person of the state will act in anticipation of what the voters and the people who make decisions at various levels expect from this person. Then maybe something will change.
But you're describing two different systems. You say that the leader acts in the interest of the voters, but you also say these decisions are not made by the leader, they're made by the ruling classes. You've run this country for so long, you've known all these American presidents. What are those power centers in the United States, do you think? Like, who actually makes the decisions?
I don't know. America is a complex country. Conservative on one hand, rapidly changing on the other. It's not easy for us to sort it all out. Who makes decisions in the elections? Is it possible to understand this when each state has its own legislation? Each state regulates itself? Someone can be excluded from elections at the state level. It is a two-stage electoral system. It is very difficult for us to understand it. Certainly, there are two parties that are dominant, the Republicans and the Democrats, and within this party system, the centers that make decisions, that prepare decisions. Then, look, why, in my opinion, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, such an erroneous, crude, completely unjustified policy of pressure was pursued against Russia? After all, this is a policy of pressure. NATO expansion, support for the separatists in Caucasus, creation of a missile defense system. These are all elements of pressure. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Then, dragging Ukraine into NATO is all about pressure, pressure, pressure. Why? I think, among other things, because excessive production capacities were created. During the confrontation with the Soviet Union, there were many centers created and specialists on the Soviet Union who could not do anything else. They convinced the political leadership that it is necessary to continue chiseling Russia, to try to break it up, to create on this territory several quasi-state entities, and to subdue them in a divided form, to use their combined potential for the future struggle with China. This is a mistake, including the excessive potential of those who worked for the confrontation with the Soviet Union. It is necessary to get rid of this. There should be new, fresh forces, people who look into the future and understand what is happening in the world. Look at how Indonesia is developing. 600 million people. Where can we get away from that? Nowhere. We just have to assume that Indonesia will enter, it is already in, the club of the world's leading economies, no matter who likes it or dislikes it.
Indonesia.
Yes, we understand and are aware that in the United States, despite all the economic problems, the situation is still normal, with the economy growing decently. The GDP is growing by 2.5%, if I'm not mistaken. But if we want to ensure the future, then we need to change our approach to what is changing. As I already said, the world would nevertheless change, regardless of how the developments in Ukraine end. The world is changing. In the United States themselves, experts are writing that the United States are nonetheless gradually changing their position in the world. It is your experts who write that. I just read them. The only question is how this would happen, painfully and quickly, or gently and gradually. And this is written by people who are not anti-American. They simply follow global development trends. That's it. And in order to assess them and change policies, we need people who think, look forward, can analyze and recommend certain decisions at the level of political leaders.
I just have to ask, you've said clearly that NATO expansion eastward is a violation of the promise you all were made in 1990. It's a threat to your country. Right before you sent troops into Ukraine, the Vice President of the United States went to the Munich Security Conference and encouraged the President of Ukraine to join NATO. Do you think that was an effort to provoke you into military action?
Мы просто, я еще раз повторю,
Dang.
многократно
So that
I repeat once
tells us
again,
what we were wondering
we have
earlier.
repeatedly proposed to seek a solution to the problems that arose in Ukraine after 2014 coup d'etat through peaceful means. But no one listened to us. And moreover, the Ukrainian leaders who were under the complete US control suddenly declared that they would not comply with the Minsk agreements. They disliked everything there and continued military activity in that territory.
шло освоение этой территории натовскими военными структурами под видом различных центров.
And in parallel, that territory was being exploited by NATO military structures under the guise of various personnel training and retraining centers. They essentially began to create bases there. That's all. Ukraine announced that the Russians were a non-titular nationality, while passing the laws that limit the rights of non-titular nationalities in Ukraine. Ukraine, having received all these southeastern territories as a gift from the Russian people, suddenly announced that the Russians were a non-titular nationality in that territory. Is that normal? All this put together led to the decision to end the war that neo-Nazis started in Ukraine in 2014.
Do you think Zelenskyy has the freedom to negotiate a settlement to this conflict?
I don't know the details. Of course, it's difficult for me to judge. But I believe he has, in any case, he used to have. His father fought against the fascists, Nazis, during World War II. I once talked to him about this. I said, Volodya, what are you doing? Why are you supporting neo-Nazis in Ukraine today, while your father fought against fascism? He was a frontline soldier. I will not tell you what he answered. This is a separate topic, and I think it's incorrect for me to do so. But as to the freedom of choice, why not? He came to power on the expectations of Ukrainian people that he would lead Ukraine to peace. He talked about this. It was thanks to this that he won the elections overwhelmingly. But then, when he came to power, in my opinion, he realized two things. Firstly, it is better not to clash with neo-Nazis and nationalists, because they are aggressive and very active. You can expect anything from them. And secondly, the US-led West supports them and will always support those who antagonize with Russia. It is beneficial and safe. So he took the relevant position despite promising his people to end the war in Ukraine. He deceived his voters.
But do you think at this point, as of February 2024, he has the latitude, the freedom to speak with you or your government directly about putting an end to this, which clearly isn't helping his country or the world? Can he do that, do you think?
Ну, а почему нет? Он же
Why
считается
not?
главой государства.
He considers himself head of state. He won the elections. Although we believe in Russia that the coup d'etat is the primary source of power for everything that happened after 2014. And in this sense, even today, government is flawed. But he considers himself the president, and he is recognized by the United States, all of Europe, and practically the rest of the world in such a capacity. Why not? He can. We negotiated with Ukraine in Istanbul. We agreed. He was aware of this. Moreover, the negotiation group leader, Mr. Arahamiya is his last name, I believe still heads the faction of the ruling party, the party of the president in the Rada. He still heads the presidential faction in the Rada, the country's parliament. He still sits there. He even put his preliminary signature on the document I am telling you about. But then he publicly stated to the whole world, we were ready to sign this document, but Mr. Johnson, then the Prime Minister of Great Britain, came and dissuaded us from doing this, saying it was better to fight Russia. They would give everything needed for us to return what was lost during the clashes with Russia. And we agreed with this proposal. Look, his statement has been published. He said it publicly. Can they return to this or not? The question is, do they want it or not? Further on, President of Ukraine issued a decree prohibiting negotiations with us. Let him cancel that decree, and that's it. We have never refused negotiations, indeed. We hear all the time, is Russia ready? Yes, we have not refused. It was them who publicly refused. Well, let him cancel his decree and enter into negotiations. We have never refused. And the fact that they obeyed the demand or persuasion of Mr. Johnson, the former Prime Minister of Great Britain, seems ridiculous and very sad to me. Because, as Mr. Arakamiya put it, we could have stopped those hostilities with war a year and a half ago already. But the British persuaded us and we refused this. Where is Mr. Johnson now? And the war continues.
That's a good question. Where do you think he is and why did he do that?
Hell knows. I don't understand it myself. There was a general starting point. For some reason, everyone had the illusion that Russia could be defeated on the battlefield. Because of arrogance, because of a pure heart, but not because of a great mind.
You've described the connection between Russia and Ukraine. You've described Russia itself a couple of times as orthodox. That's central to your understanding of Russia. You've said you're orthodox. What does that mean for you? You're a Christian leader by your own description. So what effect does that have on you?
How long is left?
20 minutes, buddy.
Long ass interview. They were talking for a while.
You know, as I already mentioned, in 988, Prince Vladimir himself was baptized following the example of his grandmother, Princess Olga. And then he baptized his squad. And then, gradually, over the course of several years, he baptized all the Rus. It was a lengthy process, from pagans to Christians. It took many years. But in the end, this orthodoxy, Eastern Christianity, deeply rooted itself in the consciousness of the Russian people. When Russia expanded and absorbed other nations who profess Islam, Buddhism, and Judaism, Russia has always been very loyal to those people who profess other religions. This is her strength. This is absolutely clear. And the fact is that the main postulates, main values are very similar, not to say the same, in all world religions I've just mentioned, and which are the traditional religions of the Russian Federation, Russia. By the way, Russian authorities were always very careful about the culture and religion of those people who came into the Russian Empire. This, in my opinion, forms the basis of both security and stability of the Russian statehood. All the peoples inhabiting Russia basically consider it their motherhood. If, say, people move over to you or to Europe from Latin America, an even clearer and more understandable example, people come, but yet they have come to you or to European countries from their historical homeland. And people who profess different religions in Russia consider Russia their motherland. They have no other motherland. We are together. This is one big family, and our traditional values are very similar. I've just mentioned one big family, but everyone has his, her own family. And this is the basis of our society. And if we say that the motherland and the family are if It is indeed the case, since it is impossible to ensure a normal future for our children and our families unless we ensure a normal, sustainable future for the entire country, for the motherland. That is why patriotic sentiment is so strong in Russia.
But can I say that the one way in which the religions are different is that Christianity is specifically a nonviolent religion. Jesus says, turn the other cheek, don't kill. How can a leader who has to kill, of any country, how can a leader be a Christian? How do you reconcile that?
Great question.
Очень легко. Если речь идет о защите себя и своей семьи.
It is very easy when it comes to protecting oneself and one's family, one's homeland. We won't attack anyone.
Госперевороты и с начала боевых действий на Донецке.
When did the developments in Ukraine start?
На Донбассе. Вот с чего.
Since the coup d'etat and the hostilities in Donbass began, that's when they started. And we're protecting our people, ourselves, our homeland, and our future.
Она не во внешних проявлениях, и в том, чтобы ходить
As for religion in general,
или бить головой в пол. Она в сердце.
you know, it's not about external manifestations. It's not about going to church every day or banging your head on the floor.
Человек ориентированный. И Достоевский.
It is in the heart. And our culture is so human-oriented.
Гений.
Dostoevsky, who was very well known in the West and the genius of Russian culture, Russian literature, spoke a lot about this, about the Russian soul.
Русский человек, российский человек, он думает больше о вечном, он думает больше о ценности.
After all, Western society is more pragmatic. Russian people think more about the eternal, about moral values. I don't know, maybe you won't agree with me, but Western culture is more pragmatic after all.
Возможность вот сегодняшнему этому золотому миллиарду.
I'm not saying this is bad. It makes it possible for today's golden billion to achieve good success in production, even in science and so on.
Что мы вроде как выглядим одинаково, но
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that we kind of look the same, but our
Well,
minds
so
are
do you
built a
see
little
the
different.
supernatural at work as you look out across what's happening in the world now? Do you see God at work? Do you ever think to yourself, these are forces that are not human?
Да нет, я, честно говоря, так не думаю. Я думаю о том, что
No, to be honest, I don't think so.
развивается вот по своим внутренним
My opinion is that the development of the world community is in accordance with the inherent laws, and those laws are what they are.
Так было всегда в истории человечества.
It's always been this way in the history of mankind. Some nations and countries rose, became stronger and more numerous, and then left the international stage, losing the status they had accustomed to.
Наверное, не нужно приводить эти примеры, но начиная
There's probably no need for me to give examples, but we could start with the Genghis Khan and horde conquerors, the Golden Horde, and then end with the Roman Empire.
человечество каждый
It seems that there has never been anything like the Roman Empire in the history of mankind.
потенциал варваров постепенно накапливался.
Nevertheless, the potential of the barbarians gradually grew, as did their population. In general, the barbarians were getting stronger and begun to develop economically, as we would say today.
Экономически они стали укрепляться.
This eventually led to the collapse of the Roman Empire and the regime imposed by the Romans.
500 лет. Этот процесс.
However, it took 5 centuries for the Roman Empire to fall apart.
В сегодняшней ситуации
The
разница
difference with what is happening now
процессы изменений.
is that all the processes of change are happening at a much faster pace than in Roman times.
So when does the AI empire start, do you think?
AI empire.
Всё более
You're
сложные
asking increasingly more complicated questions. To answer them, you need to be an expert in big numbers, big data, and AI. Mankind is currently facing many threats. Due to the genetic researches, it is now possible to create a superhuman, a specialized human being, a genetically engineered
That's what they did to make me.
athlete, scientist, military man. There are reports that Elon Musk has already had a chip implanted in the human brain in the USA.
I heard that. The Neuralink.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think there's no stopping Elon Musk. He will do as he sees fit. Nevertheless, you need to find some common ground with him, search for ways to persuade him. I think he's a smart person, I truly believe he is. So you need to reach an agreement with him because this process needs to be formalized and subjected to certain rules. Humanity has to consider what is going to happen due to the newest development in genetics or in AI. One can make an approximate prediction of what will happen.
They're going to force people to have it.
Once mankind felt an existential threat coming from nuclear weapons, all nuclear nations began to come to terms with one another since they realized the negligent use of nuclear weaponry could drive humanity to extinction.
At least everyone can agree on that.
That was one thing.
That helps me sleep a little
It is
better.
impossible to stop research in genetics or AI today, just as it was impossible to stop the use of gunpowder back in the day.
Исследования все равно будут. Но когда человечество почувствует угрозу для себя...
But as soon as we realize that the threat comes from unbridled and uncontrolled development of AI, or genetics, or any other field, the time will come to reach an international agreement on how to regulate these things.
I appreciate all the time you've given us. I just got to ask you one last question, and that's about someone who's very famous in the United States, probably not here. Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal reporter, he's 32, and he's been
See
in
the
prison
dude
for almost
lurking
a
in the
year.
back?
Yeah.
This is
I
a
thought
huge
I was
story in
the
the
one who
United
saw
States,
that.
and I just want to ask you directly, without getting into the details of it or your version of what happened, if as a sign of your decency, you would be willing
That's
to
the guy that created the bomb.
release him to us and
Oh,
we'll
that's
bring
the
him back to
journalist.
the United States.
What's the journalist? American journalist in jail in Russia.
Мы столько сделали жестов доброй воли, что, мне кажется, мы исчерпали все линии.
We have done so many gestures of goodwill out of decency that I think we have run out of them.
Ни разу не ответил. Но
We have never seen anyone reciprocate to us in a similar manner.
что
However, in theory,
arms
we can
dealers
say
will
that we do not rule out that we can do that
мы исключаем того, что мы можем это
if our
сделать
partners
при
take reciprocal steps.
встречном движении со стороны наших
When I talk about the partners, I first of all refer to special services.
представителей специальных служб.
Special services are in contact with one another. They are talking about the matter in question.
На то, чтобы не решить это.
There is no taboo to settle this
Мы
issue.
готовы ее решать.
We are willing to solve
Там
it.
есть определенные условия, которые
But there are certain terms being discussed via special services channels.
Suck for that guy.
спецслужбы.
I believe an agreement can be reached.
So typically, I mean, this stuff has happened for obviously centuries.
just wanted an agreement,
One
bro.
country catches another spy within its borders, it trades it
Compromise.
for one of its own intel guys in another country. I think what makes, and it's not my business, but what makes this different is the guy's obviously not a spy, he's a kid. And maybe he was breaking your law in some way, but he's not a super spy, and everybody knows that. And he's being held hostage in exchange,
That's
which is
big.
true. With respect, it's true now.
Man, shout out Rain, man.
Thank
I
you,
had to
Rain.
stop for a
Nah,
right
for
quick,
real.
guy. Y'all seen it. 300 though.
Thank
Make
you,
sure that's
Rain.
the same,
Genuinely,
Rain.
thank
Hey,
you.
okay, all right. Let's keep going, bro.
One country catches another spy within its borders, it trades it for one of its own intel guys in another country. I think what makes, and it's not my business, but what makes this different is the guy's obviously not a spy, he's a kid. And maybe he was breaking your law in some way, but he's not a super spy, and everybody knows that. And he's being held hostage in exchange, which is true. With respect, it's true, and everyone knows it's true. So maybe he's in a different category. Maybe it's not fair to ask for somebody else in exchange for letting him out. Maybe it degrades Russia to do that.
Вы знаете, ну, можно как угодно говорить, что такое шпион, что не шпион.
You know, you can give different interpretations to what constitutes a spy, but there are certain things provided by law. If person gets secret information and does that in conspiratorial manner, then this is qualified as espionage. And that is exactly what he was doing. He was receiving classified, confidential information, and he did it covertly. Maybe he did that out of carelessness or his own initiative. Considering the sheer fact this is qualified as espionage, the fact has been proven as he was caught red-handed when he was receiving this information.
You can have my
If it
camera.
had been some far-fetched excuse, some fabrication, something not proven, it would have been a different story then. But he was caught red-handed when he was secretly getting confidential information.
So the
What
argument
is
is,
it then?
But are
They
you
think he's a
suggesting he
spy.
was working for the U.S. government or NATO, or he was just a
journalist.
reporter who was given material he wasn't supposed to have? Those seem like very different things.
Tucker cooking.
Like always.
Я не знаю, на кого он работал. Но повторяю еще раз.
I don't know who he was working for. But I would like to reiterate that getting classified information in secret is called espionage, and he was working for the U.S. Special Services, some other agencies. I don't think he was working for Monaco, as Monaco is hardly interested in getting that information. It is up to special services to come to an agreement. Some groundwork has been laid. There are people who, in our view, are not connected with special services. Let me tell you a story about a person serving a sentence in an allied country of the US. That person, due to patriotic sentiments, eliminated a bandit in one of the European capitals.
Во время событий на Кавказе, знаете, что
During the events in the Caucasus, do you know what he was doing?
хочется говорить, но тем не менее, скажу.
I don't want to say that, but I will do it anyway. He was laying our soldiers, taken prisoner, on the road and then drove his car over their heads.
Wait.
What?
What?
What kind of person is that?
Chill
Can
out,
he
bro.
even be called human?
Нашелся патриот, который ликвидировал его.
Chill out.
But there was a patriot who eliminated him in one of the European capitals.
Инициативе или нет?
Whether he did it of his own volition or not, that is a different question.
This is
Evan
insane.
Gershkovich
Вот- вот
didn't
он
do that. I mean, that's a completely different. I mean, this is a
Да, он не-
32-year-old like
Ну, он
newspaper
делал, да, он-
reporter.
He committed
делал
something
другое.
different.
Да, он не просто журналист. Я повторяю еще раз, это журналист.
He's not just a journalist. I reiterate, he's a journalist who was secretly getting confidential information.
So how does he get out, Putin?
Yes, it is different, but still,
You need
I
some
don't think
bread.
he's
talking
gonna let
about
him out.
other people who are essentially controlled by the U.S. authorities, where
Да, он не
We
просто
gotta get him
журналист. Я повторяю еще раз, это журналист.
he's not just a journalist. I reiterate, he's a journalist who was secretly getting
Я
confidential
просто говорю про
information.
тех людей, которые
Yes, it is different, but still, I'm talking about other people who are essentially controlled by the U.S. authorities, wherever they are serving a sentence.
идет диалог.
There is an ongoing dialogue between the special services. This has to be resolved in a calm, responsible, and professional manner. They are keeping in touch, so let them do their work.
Тот человек, о котором вы сказали, господин.
I do not rule out that the person you refer to, Mr. Gershkovich, may return to his motherland. By the end of the day, it does not make any sense to keep him in prison in Russia. We want the U.S. Special Services to think about how they can contribute to achieving the goals our special services are pursuing.
Те проблемы,
We are ready to talk. Moreover, the talks are underway. And there have been many successful examples of these talks crowned with success. Probably this is going to be crowned with success as well.
I'm sorry, I gotta go.
There is an ongoing dialogue between the special services. This has to be resolved in a calm, responsible, and professional manner. They are keeping in touch, so let them do their work.
тот человек, о котором вы сказали, господин.
I do not rule out that the person you refer to, Mr. Gershkovich, may return to his motherland. By the end of the day, it does not make any sense to keep him in prison in Russia. We want the U.S. Special Services to think about how they can contribute to achieving the goals our special services are pursuing.
Те проблемы,
We are ready to talk. Moreover, The talks are
Tucker might
underway,
have just helped that dude a
and
lot.
there have been many successful examples of these talks crowned with success. Probably this is going to be crowned with success as well,
Ну, только надо договариваться.
but we have to come to an agreement.
Well, let's do it. Get that guy
I feel
there.
like he wants some.
President, thank you.
It's just
And
the
there
end.
have been many successful examples of these talks crowned with success. Probably this is going to be crowned with success as well,
Ну, только надо договариваться.
but we have to come to an agreement.
Give him the camera, bro.
I hope you let him out. Mr. President, thank you.
He said the U.S. probably got to give us somebody.
Мне тоже хотелось.
I also want him to return to his homeland at last. I'm absolutely sincere,
Ну,
but
повторяю,
let me say
диалог
once
идет.
again, the
Чем
dialogue
больше мы придаем
continues.
огласки,
The more public we render things of this nature, the more difficult it becomes to resolve them.
всё должно.
Everything has to be done in calm manner.
I wonder if that's
Закрытом
true
режиме.
with the war, though. Also, I mean, I guess I want to ask one more question, which is, and maybe you don't want to say so for strategic reasons, but are you worried that what's happening in Ukraine could lead to something much larger and much more horrible? And how motivated are you just to call the U.S. government and say, let's come to terms?
Tucker, a dog.
Так, послушайте,
Choked him up.
я же сказал.
I already said that we did not refuse to talk. We're willing to negotiate. It is the Western side, and Ukraine is obviously a satellite state of the US. It is evident. I do not want you to take it as if I'm looking for a strong word or an insult, but we both understand what is happening.
Финансовая поддержка, сколько, 72 миллиардов.
The financial support, 72 billion US dollars, was provided. Germany ranks second, then other European countries come.
Огромный поток.
Germany paid?
Dozens of billions of US dollars are going
course,
to
yeah.
Ukraine.
Конечно, поэтому,
There's a huge
поэтому,
influx of
ну,
weapons.
Ну, скажите,
In this case, you should tell the current Ukrainian leadership to stop and come to a negotiating table, rescind this absurd decree.
садитесь, переговаривайтесь.
We did
Мы
not
же не
refuse.
отказались.
Sure, but you already said it. I didn't think you meant it as an insult because you already said correctly, it's been reported that Ukraine was prevented from negotiating a peace settlement by the former British Prime Minister acting on behalf of the Biden administration. So, of course, they're a satellite. Big countries control small countries. That's not new. And that's why I asked about dealing directly with the Biden administration, which is making these decisions, not President Zelenskyy of Ukraine.
Но если администрация Зеленского на Украине отказалась от переговоров, я исхожу из
Well,
того, что они
if the Zelensky administration in Ukraine refused to negotiate,
пусть теперь
I assume they did it under the instruction from
неправильное
Washington.
решение, пусть откажутся,
If Washington believes it to be the wrong decision, let it abandon it. Let it find a delicate excuse so that no one is insulted. Let it come up with a way out.
Пусть они от него отказываются.
It was not us who made this decision, it was them.
Всё.
So let them go
Они
back on
приняли
it.
неправильное решение.
That is
Теперь мы
it.
должны искать выход из этого неправильного решения.
However, they made the wrong decision, and now we have to look for a way out of the situation to correct their
Совершили,
mistakes.
пусть и исправляют.
They did it, so let them correct it themselves. We support this.
So I just want to make sure I'm not misunderstanding what you're saying. I don't think that I am. I think you're saying you want a negotiated settlement to what's happening in Ukraine.
Правильно. Но мы
Right.
уже добились этого.
And we made it. We prepared a huge document in Istanbul that was initialed by the head of the Ukrainian delegation. He affixed his signature to some of the provisions, not to all of it. He put his signature and then he himself said, we were ready to sign it and the war would have been over long ago, 18 months ago. However, Prime Minister Johnson came, talked us out of it, and we missed that chance. Well, you missed it, you made a mistake. Let them get back to that, that is all. Why do we have to bother ourselves and correct somebody else's mistakes? I know one can say it is our mistake. It was us who intensified the situation and decided to put an end to the war that started in 2014 in Donbass, as I have already said, by means of weapons. Let me get back to further in history. I already told you this. We were just discussing it. Let us go back to 1991, when we were promised that NATO would not expand, to 2008, when the doors to NATO opened to the declaration of state sovereignty of Ukraine, declaring Ukraine a neutral state. Let us go back to the fact that NATO and US military bases started to appear on the territory of Ukraine, creating threats to us. Let us go back to coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014. It is pointless though, isn't it? We may go back and forth endlessly, but they stopped negotiations. Is it a mistake? Yes. Correct it. We are ready. What else is needed?
Do you think it's too humiliating
Thank you.
at this point for NATO to accept Russian control of what was 2 years ago Ukrainian territory?
Я же сказал.
I said, let them think how to do it with dignity. There are options if there is a will.
Варианты есть. Но если желание.
Up until now, there has been the uproar and screaming about inflicting a strategic defeat on Russia on the battlefield.
Стратегического поражения России, поражения.
Now they are apparently coming to realize that it is difficult to achieve, if possible at all. In my opinion, it is impossible by definition. It is never going to happen. It seems to me that now, those who are in power in the West have come to realize this as well.
Это осознание пришло. Подумайте теперь.
If so, if the realization has set in, they have to think what to do next. We are ready for this dialogue.
Would you be willing to say, congratulations, NATO, you won, and just keep the situation where it is now?
Hell no.
Ну, вы знаете, это предмет переговоров.
You know, it is a subject matter for the negotiations. No one is willing to conduct, or, to put it more accurately,
Точнее сказать, хотят.
they're willing but do not know how to do it.
Я не только вижу,
I know they want to. It is not just I see it, but I know they do want it. But they're struggling to understand how to do it. They have driven the situation to the point where we are at. It is not us who have done that. It is our partners, opponents who have done that. Well, now let them think how to reverse the situation. We're not against it. It would be funny if it were not so sad.
Да, было бы смешно, если бы не было так грустно.
This endless mobilization in Ukraine, the hysteria, the domestic problems, sooner or later it will result in agreement.
Истерика там,
I hope so.
внутренние проблемы.
You know, this probably sounds strange given the current situation,
Все равно мы договоримся. И
but the relations between the two peoples will be rebuilt
в
anyway.
сегодняшней ситуации прозвучит.
It will take a lot of time, but they will heal.
Между народами восстановится. Потребуется много времени.
I'll give you very unusual examples.
Совсем приведу вам необычный пример.
There is a combat encounter on the battlefield. Here's a specific example. Ukrainian soldiers got encircled. This is an example from real life. Our soldiers were shouting to them, "There is no chance. Surrender yourselves. Come out and you will be alive."
Наши солдаты им кричат.
Suddenly, the Ukrainian soldiers were screaming from there in Russian,
Thank you,
perfect
Steve.
Russian, saying,
Вдруг оттуда
"Russians, do not surrender."
на хорошем русском
And all of them
и
perished.
не сдаются.
They still identify themselves as Russian.
Они до сих пор русскими себя считают.
Well, this situation sounds kind of familiar.
What is happening is, to a certain extent,
They
an
killed all of
element
them,
of
though.
a civil war.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Everyone in the West thinks that the Russian people have been split by hostilities forever.
Растащили
No,
одну
they
часть.
will be reunited.
Нет,
The unity is still there.
воссоединение произойдет. Оно никуда и не делается.
Why are the Ukrainian authorities dismantling the Ukrainian Orthodox Church?
Толпу православных.
Just said that earlier.
Because it brings together not only the territory,
Не меняет ни территорию,
it brings together our souls.
Oh shit.
и ни
No one will be able to separate the soul.
The soul.
Hey, Tucker, this is the #1 interview you ever
Shall
did.
we end here, or is there anything else?
No, I think that's great.
Спасибо.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Wow, man, that was
He said, so
insane.
is he trying to say they're trying to attack our souls right now?
No, he said that.
He said, why they ain't gonna have no church?
Man,
He
bro,
said
y'all-
they take away the church because it unites people and they don't want them
If
to
y'all
feel
knew
united.
half
He
of the
said,
shit
he said
Todd
the
be
church
saying.
makes them united in the soul.
Yeah.
And you can't take away someone's soul.
Yeah.
So they're taking away the church so they don't feel united. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell
That's
you
what I'm
was talking
saying.
about.
They said they're taking away
Not
their
to us.
souls.
Not our soul.
I know, but
yeah, they soul.
Yeah, they
Like
take
the
away their
soul
soul.
in the church.
They trying to take y'all souls.
They trying to take our soul. Y'all knew half of the shit Todd says in the home, man.
Yeah, if y'all do.
Okay. Yeah, that was actually insane. I mean, before this interview, I was probably insanely scared to go to Russia. I probably still am.
I definitely still am.
But it made it feel a tad bit better because I go out, Putin like sound like a smart guy. He did
He was
sound
smart
very
as hell.
smart.
He was smart as hell.
You have to be to run the country.
I mean, he been president for 24 years. I'd say he know a thing or two.
Yeah. He sounded insanely smart. I didn't think he was gonna be like that. I thought he was gonna say some insane shit on there. I thought he was gonna say some threats. He didn't say too many. He didn't say any threats. Maybe a little tad, one a little
Yeah, he
tad.
said, yeah.
One a little tad bit, but it
But it
wasn't.
seems like overall, he does see that if the U.S. and Russia go to war, it would be bad for everyone.
It would be terrible.
Yeah,
we
I'm glad he know
we
that.
shouldn't go to war with Russia to fight for Ukraine.
Not we, the Joe Biden administration.
I personally still have stayed pretty strong on this
Thank
stance.
you.
I don't really care too much for
Again.
the
Ukraine
Joe Biden
or their
administration
country or their problems.
is literally finna put us into a terrible situation, bro. We gonna get a paper at the front door.
Man.
They said Russia don't like black babies.
Man.
That
I don't
makes
know,
sense.
man. I mean, maybe I
No
had
one
like a
usually
bad
does.
outlook on Russia, you know. Maybe I would visit it one day. I don't know.
I'm not visiting.
I'll
Them
go to
boys did
Russia.
it- Them boys did it. They was with Hezbollah though. They
That's-
was plugged in.
I'd go to Germany, my homeland.
Relax, buddy. But that,
Listen, nigga, you ain't from there.
What?
This
Right.
we don't know.
Wow,
I'm
we
just
gotta
playing.
get
I'm
live
just playing, y'all.
stream.
I'm just playing.
I ain't gonna
So
lie.
you can't edit that out.
I seen Russia.
I'm sorry.
Fucking
Okay,
dummy.
Bro, we
I was
might
just
get a
playing.
strike.
I was just
actually.
kidding.
I seen
might
it.
actually get a
I was just
strike.
kidding, y'all. I'm not white.
Tell
YouTube.
YouTube that you're just
YouTube.
kidding,
I was just
buddy.
kidding. YouTube.
I seen
Okay,
Russia
okay,
before in Alaska.
It's right there. It's right there.
You could see it right across the street.
Yeah,
That's
I
insane.
think they're yeah.
Okay, guys. Yeah, this was insane, guys. I mean, this was probably Tucker's for sure #1 interview. Let us know in the comments, though. We're going to end this live stream. Let us know in the comments how y'all feel about it. And, yeah, he gave us, I ain't gonna lie, Putin was going crazy. I can't count. We're out of here, guys.